Whether you're joining a Product Marketing Alliance event for the first time, or if you're a seasoned regular, welcome to Masters of Product Marketing. We have an awesome lineup of leadership-focused content for you to enjoy this week. But before we dive in, I just want to say a huge thank you to our sponsors, partners, speakers, and you, our lovely audience. From wherever in the world you are watching, we're sure you'll enjoy the sessions from our incredible lineup. To get the most out of these sessions, please ensure you are sharing your feedback and asking your questions in the comment section, and our speakers will be answering them throughout the day. And if you aren't already, then why not become a PMA Pro member and benefit from unlimited access to exclusive templates, frameworks, and our entire library of videos and slide decks from all our events. So with all that to come, let's dive right into the next session.
Hi everyone, this is Olivia. Thank you so much for joining. So I am going to start immediately, and I'd like to talk to you about setting up and scaling specifically B2B product marketing teams. So I'm going to dive right into it. So how do you get going if you're looking at starting a product marketing team? And I'm going to talk you through some points that we will go into in more depth throughout this presentation. So number one is about finding the gap to get started, laying foundations now for success later, tracking small wins immediately, synthesizing, prioritizing, being comfortable, being uncomfortable, because that will happen. And I'm going to also wrap up with how your product marketing vision is going to be your scale up plan. So by word of introduction, here's a little bit about me and how my road to product marketing looked like. I actually studied journalism and Germanic studies. I did some events management, ended up working in PR and comms agency side for some time. I then went into more of a growth hacking role at Skyscanner, which is where I established the product marketing function the first time round. And I am currently head of product marketing at Treasurit, and I've established a function here as well, and we're scaling up that team now. That brings us to today. So do you know where I'm coming from as well, and why sort of I'll be saying some of the things that I say? Here's kind of my underlying principles. I think that great products make brands great, not the reverse. I think good leaders are product evangelists. We should be talking about a product, we should be loving our product, we should be communicating about our product internally, and sort of communicating to everyone around us the positives of the product. I also believe that placing the user at the heart of everything we do is key, and I firmly believe that you should always know what you're building, why, and for whom. So let me start with finding that gap and getting started. So I would like to encourage everyone to think big, but start small. So you need to define the area of the business that needs the most help right now. and you need to find a way of quantifying the impact you can possibly have in numbers. So what sort of metrics are you going to be able to change for the business, and by when? Having a bit of an impact assumption is going to help you. And I would also encourage you to find someone that can support you in driving home that business case to stakeholders. So at Skyscanner, the first time I established a product marketing function, I worked very closely with the head of B2B growth. She had experience in product marketing, and she was the one that really sort of helped me put together my thoughts, guide me, offer me sort of support, and then help me communicate my business case to senior stakeholders. Know your own strengths as well, and make sure that you play to those. Define what your strongest suit is, and that's where you're going to have. That's where you're going to be able to add value immediately. So think of your personal areas of expertise. You'll be stronger in one area than another. So keep that in mind when defining sort of the first area to get started with, and map that strength area to what your business currently needs, because that's going to help you be clear on what you're going to tackle and what you're not going to start with immediately, because maybe you're not currently sort of best equipped to do that. And finally, all through that process, communicate well and often. So be proactive, show everyone that value that you're going to bring, how it's going to help each of the teams that you're going to work together with, and how it's going to help them get the job done. Because that's what they want, right? And I, for example, hold roadshows typically, where in sort of discipline all hands, I'll go around and present myself, sort of give a little bit of an overview of what product marketing is, and what roles I'm taking on for which teams, and where I'm supporting, and the areas, crucially, that I'm not supporting, because product marketing can be a lot of things, and it's very important to be clear from the get-go. But for all that, remember that you're trying to lay the foundations to be successful long-term as well, right? So for that, I always think of a bank of quick wins. So like depositing some money or something like that. If I focus on things that I can do right now, some small wins, I can kind of put them in the bank and show that I'm already adding value. And that kind of gives me some breathing space later when I want to tackle some bigger pieces, something foundational, something strategic, because I'm already delivering some smaller quick wins that are having an impact. So I have more buy-in, I have more support when I have to say, I'm going to, prioritize this foundational piece or this strategic piece. And that's proven really helpful in the past. To set yourself up for success, remember that in a high growth company, the pressure is you're always going to be told that, the focus is on delivering right now. Yeah, sure, we need strategy and we need to think long term, but where's the revenue like today? So that's fine, but don't do that at any cost. So at the same time as trying to find the bits that have impact now, start introducing the templates, the ways of working, the structure and the alignment that you want between those teams. You have to build that right from the ground up. So good places to start, from my experience of going through this twice, is what does the GTM process look like? So documenting all of that, for example, the product marketing deliverables matrix for each level of launch that you might have. I think product launch briefs are a very valuable tool that has helped me communicate why are we creating this feature, what value it's going to bring to which audience, and aligning that not only with sort of sales and support and marketing, but also it's something that you can communicate to the whole company, that the whole company can look back at. And messaging and positioning templates are typically what I do sort of as a first thing. Be prepared to iterate on those ways of working. So try and find your groove, but that can take a bit of time. And first things is probably to figure out how you're going to work together with your key teams, sales, marketing, product, and agree on things like how often should we meet? How do I give you my input, and how do I request your input? In what areas do you want to be involved, and in what areas do you have full ownership? Because there's some gray areas, as we'll go into, and it's good to clarify that from the get-go. And then tweak those processes, tweak the templates that you use, and so on as you go. The next thing that I think is really important is to track the small wins really early on. So you might not have a benchmark for what you want to track. So figure out what that benchmark is, because your grace period will be short, right? You'll be coming on board and you'll have a bit of an onboarding or a setup period, but that's not going to be long before somebody comes to you and says, so where are the numbers? So find the key indicators of your success and benchmark them on day zero, like as soon as you start. Let's just say I'm going to be measured, this is the needle that I want to move. Here's what it was like on day zero. And that's where you're starting from. So make sure that you have that benchmark and that you track. But set clear expectations when you do that exercise. Don't try and guess what your stakeholders might think. Align with them as well on what success looks like for your role. And remember that it's okay if everything, especially in the foundational sort of period of the function, is not tied back directly to revenue. It might be more of a goal around alignment, around sales confidence. It might be something like establishing processes for X, Y, or Z. Revenue can come a little bit later, but make sure you're aligned and that the expectation is understood by everyone. Look at those sort of numbers or key success indicators closely, and make sure that you get the right level of information back to the right stakeholders on a regular basis so that they know that things are progressing, that you're adding value, that you're really working on an impact on their business objectives. Another key thing is to really start early in your sort of role as synthesizing and prioritizing middleman between all the teams that you work closely with. So sales, product, marketing, and sometimes support. And my top tips when establishing the product marketing function is take the time to observe and listen first. Take in as much information as you can on customers, what the market looks like, your competitors, everything about your product, the key stakeholders and their objectives, any user research initiatives you might have going on, what the marketing focuses look like at the moment, what the sales processes are like, and make sure that you register everything before you act on anything. Just make sure you have all of that knowledge, you know what's happening across sort of all of those areas. It might be a lot at first, but in the long run, that's what's going to make you this central piece of the puzzle, which is going to make you really valuable to a big proportion of the company. And it's also what's going to help you pinpoint the broken links. When you do that exercise, you will start seeing things like, oh, actually, the sales teams never know what is happening on the product side. They don't know, they don't have information or training on the latest features. They don't know what the roadmap looks like. They don't know what to talk to customers about because that link doesn't exist or is broken in some way. Or you might think that actually the marketing team is not communicating back feedback from customers when they do campaigns. So there's something to fix here. And that's something that you'll find is typically the case where product marketing hasn't existed before. But it's good because that's why you've come here. The role as well, in my view, one of the first things that you should be doing is just synthesizing that information and translating it back in a way that adds value, that's actionable. So you don't need to ship a million sort of huge projects to count as your first wins. Just step up as the translator that takes in all the information and relays it to the right teams in a language that they understand. And I mean, language that they understand, I don't mean just sort of translating the product technical information back to marketers so that they can do a campaign with it. I'm talking just drawing out of the information that you have, actionable insights for the product team, for the sales team, for the user researchers, for any team. You will have a wealth of information, and you should try and ask the so what. So what does it mean for us? Like what does it mean we should be doing or we shouldn't be doing? Or what does it mean we should try and do differently, and communicate that? And I mentioned it's important to get comfortable being uncomfortable. I wasn't for the longest time, but I'll explain a little bit. There's just so much that product marketing can be. The breadth and width is insane of what we can cover. So try and pick the key areas that you can have an impact on that are within your area of expertise, and focus on those. Don't try and cover a tiny bit of, the whole product lifecycle, from discovery to pre-launch to launch to post-launch. Try and focus on where you can add value. If you're a product expert, then and you have a bunch of market insights, then maybe something you want to focus on is helping the product team on influencing the roadmap. If you're more of a marketer, then maybe where you want to be is closer to coordinating launches and creating a product marketing launch plan. So just find where that is, and sure, start picking up different bits as much as you can, if you can, but focus your time on where that biggest impact is going to be. And things will change. And we came up with a saying at Treasure It, change is pain. Sometimes change, creates a lot of angst and frustration and can be a bit sort of confusing to deal with. But the key is just to keep that open sort of growth mindset. Your company will grow, the objectives will change, and what you want to do to add value to the company in your role as a PMM will change as well. So you need that flexibility to be able to readjust your strategy, to tweak your vision so that it keeps being aligned with where the company is going. And there are gray zones. So to set yourself and your team up for success, try and articulate sort of like clearly to stakeholders, or even in documenting on Confluence or whatever you use, what those gray areas are. So for example, there's often a bit of dotted sort of line, not a firm border between PMMs and product managers. So in your case, who's going to look after competitor analysis? Who's going to look after market insights? So try and document those things. That means that you can agree roles, responsibilities in the current setup, and also clearly mark orphans where nobody's taking care of those things. Actually, they're a bit abandoned and we need to find a home for them. And you can keep a close eye on those and make sure that either they have a temporary home, that it's something that you're happy to park for some time, or that there's a plan to hire or move internally to cover that bit if it's important. Then your vision is, or what I call a vision, is going to be your plan for scaling up the team. So let me go into that a little bit more. As I've touched on, you want to map the gaps against the business priorities. So it's much easier to make your case heard if you're clearly aligned with where the company is going and your stakeholders know that you really understand how you're going to help them meet those objectives. So my plan, my visions are often sort of drawn up in sketches and things like that. And it shows where we are now, the impact, the areas in which we're impacting, and it shows where product marketing can get to. And that's a big gap. I started just over half a year ago as the sole PMM. I now have sales enablement under me, but there are still many areas that aren't covered, right? So I know where I want to get to, what I want the function to grow to have impact throughout sort of the company. But I've also shown my superior the first steps. So for example, at Treasure, one of the things that I've noticed is our market intelligence, competitive intelligence is very spread out again across the company. There's no clear owner and there's nobody asking the so what question and feeding that back to the different teams. So that's one of the first steps for me. For product marketing to have more impact is going to be to have someone in my team looking after that area, owning that area, and making sure that the product team has all the insights that they need for their roadmap, that the sales team knows what's happening amongst competitors as well, and so on and so forth. Find yourself an ally. That's my biggest tip as well. It can be a mentor. It can be anybody that can sort of back where you want to go. At Skyscanner, for example, I had a product manager working closely with me who had great experiences working with product marketing, who knew a lot about product marketing, and that was most sort of happy to have my back when people were saying, hey, you know, is that product marketing or is that not product marketing? What does product marketing do? She was somebody that could help me and be like, hey, actually, you know, product marketing can help there, and the impact of product marketing is going to be this. And that was really valuable for me. Start with sort of the team leads, the marketing lead, the product lead, get their buy-in so that then it's much easier to have the buy-in of the rest of the team. We've mentioned this already, but keep things open and in review. So I have a document, which is my strategy. It's kind of a year plus vision. And I keep that document open actually, because things change, the objectives across the company change, where I want to have impact changes with that. So it means that I can always refer back and quarter after quarter check that this is still the correct approach for this. And I'm afraid there is no one size fits all org chart. I could have come here and given you, the just winning formula to getting there, but I don't think that that exists. I think for me, it's about looking at where those gaps are, what the skills required are to close that gap, and hiring for that set of skills. Crucially, making sure that role complements you. You don't need another you. You need somebody that can add value, right, to your team. For example, so let's say I'm great at messaging and positioning, but I'm not the best person when it comes to, I don't know, supporting the product team at the discovery phase. Then I will get someone that has more experience down that end of the scale and that can complement me and offer that value there. And especially for your first hires, don't be afraid of internal moves. In the case of Treasurit, we had a great colleague that had previously worked in support, that had awesome knowledge of the product, and he was an amazing candidate for the sales enablement role that I wanted to fill. So my key takeaways, to wrap up very quickly: start where you can add value right now, but introduce scalable ways of working. Remember to bank those quick wins early, and focus where you can have most impact. Create a vision that supports the company's objectives, and remember that there's no right approach. So evolve with the company. That was my little talk, and I'd be happy to connect and take more questions on LinkedIn, elsewhere. You can find me over here. You can find me by email, and you can find out more about Treasurit and where I'm currently working at treasurit.com as well. Thank you so much, guys. Bye-bye.
Vidico, how does it work?
You tell Vidico, hey, I need a video. Let's say for a product launch. We say great. We can produce a brand video, case study, software walkthrough, even animation.
That was cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Vidico's like going on a road trip with the fam. Whether you're in tech or e-commerce, we guide you through the whole process and make you a video you'll be dying to share.
very warm welcome to the Masters of Product Marketing Summit. We have an awesome lineup of leadership-focused content for you to enjoy this week. But before we dive in, I just want to say a huge thank you to our sponsors, partners, speakers, and you, our lovely audience, for making this event possible. With expert presentations and specialist talks on the agenda, you are in for a real treat today. Please ensure you are sharing your feedback and asking all questions in the comments section of the video, as our speakers will be answering them throughout the day. After the event, a great place to continue the conversation is in the PMA Slack community. If you aren't already a member, hop on over and come and join the discussion. And if that's still not enough, then why not become a PMA Pro member and benefit from unlimited access to exclusive templates, frameworks, and our entire library of videos and slide decks from all our events. So with all that to come, let's dive right into the next session.
Hi guys, did you know that even after you get your PMM headcount approved, it can take 40 days or longer for specialized roles within marketing to even make an offer? So that kind of time to fill gap between job posting and making the offer is at least 40 days. And then if you're in the US, you're going to be having probably a 2-week or so gap between your new PMM starting. And if you're in countries like the UK, notice periods are longer and you may be waiting closer to another 12 weeks. That's a long time. So I'm going to share with you today my tips that I've learned in order to speed up that process somewhat. My name is Jen Bunting. I lead product marketing for LinkedIn Marketing Solutions across EMEA and LATAM. I am not going to be talking with you about what LinkedIn offers or our product suite. That's actually not my area of expertise. When you're on LinkedIn and you see ads and sponsored elements, those are the products that my team works on. So if you want to know about how to use video or lead generation tools on LinkedIn, that's more the type of products that my team and myself talk about. But today I'm going to share with you some experiences that I've had across 20 years in digital advertising, learning how to hire people. When I first started in tech, I would join startups and sometimes be 1 or even 2 days into a new company and asked to hire people, or rather interview people, and had very limited understanding or even a job description of the roles for people I was interviewing. Crazy times in startups. Fast forward to my past 11 years at LinkedIn, and our #1 pillar is team and talent. So people managers actually get loads of training on how to be the best manager you can for your teams, but that also includes how do you find the right people to join your team. So I've been really fortunate to have training in terms of how to recruit and also how to interview through our interview and training. So I'm going to share with you what I've learned in that process. To start off, though, I did use a LinkedIn tool that I thought I would share with you. I surveyed or polled my network to try and understand from a hiring manager perspective in PMM, what are some of the biggest challenges that everyone is having? So what challenges are you having? I'd love to see that in the comments as well. So I posed these 4 options. Poll was limited to 4 options. And I even received lots of even private comments and messages, as well as the public comments in the poll as well. The results came in as such. Candidate skills and experience, like finding people that have the things that we are looking for as hiring managers, is the #1 challenge, followed by, I'm guessing too few candidates, but too many can also be a bit of a deluge for people managers to review through. I was a little bit surprised that diversity wasn't a higher ask, especially in tech. We know that we need to be thinking more about diversity in terms of gender and underrepresented racial groups. But on top of that, your ways of thinking, how do you make sure your PMM team doesn't all look like each other in terms of the way they solve problems, their creativity levels, Do you have a team of like rich, diverse experiences and ways of thinking as well? So I think that you have to plan for diversity. I think this should be a top priority for every hiring manager, regardless of product marketing. So I'm going to share, instead of like a pillar for how to solve that one thing, I'll sort of weave it through the whole story and tell you a few tips for improving that. Now, my 4 steps that I personally like to think about as far as improving that time to hire really starts with my vision and spending that time to understand, what do I need for the role? What do I need for that person in that role to be successful? I spend a lot of time thinking about the job description so that I get the most candidates and the highest quality candidates as possible. There's a lot of effort, of course, and time and preparation that goes into the interview process. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And also just a general perspective that you should be candidate first. Technically, as marketers, we should all know how to appeal to audiences and how to drive leads through the funnel. Finding the right candidate is really no different to that. And if you're like me, I believe that any marketing strategy should be audience first. It's really no different when it comes to people and people management. Your interview process should be candidate first. That way, by the time you make the offer, they are just ready to go and accept that offer and sign as quickly as possible. So those are the things we'll talk about. I'm going to start by dropping a bit of a truth bomb first, which is, despite maybe the hours or in some cases days you spend crafting that perfect job description, the average job seeker really spends under a minute, only 49 seconds, looking at your job description, which means, just like in all forms of advertising, copy is important. The words you say matter. That's why people like Stephen King are millionaires. So make sure that you're really spending the time to think about that job description and that representation to the world about the type of person you're looking for to join your company. Now, the job description you start to put together really is probably going to be diving into the skills and experience. Again, this is one of the top concerns that everyone voted on in the poll. Again, before you start thinking about even putting pen to paper on the job description, spend some time thinking about, what are the skills and experiences that you need for someone to be successful and to drive measurable results for your organization. And it's worth pausing for a moment just to remind everyone, for those who don't think about this a lot, we do a lot at LinkedIn, the difference between skills and experiences. They are not synonyms, even though I think a lot of people, particularly job seekers, may even think that they're interchangeable. Your skills are going to be those knowledge and abilities that you've gained, and your experience are things that you've done. So for example, if you are looking to hire a director level person, you probably want them to have people management experience. You want them to have managed teams or individuals before. Now, you may want skills for that person that you want them to be successful, such as emotional intelligence, creativity. These are soft skills, harder to learn, longer to learn, but can be learned. And so they're called soft skills, whereas hard skills are more those, you know how to code, for example, or you're proficient in online tools or Excel, etc. So your hard skills and soft skills and your experience. And of course, you could think about role experience and skills as you start writing your job description that you would believe are transferable as well. I think as product marketers, on top of the fact that we're looking for highly skilled individuals, part of the challenge and the beauty of the role, and what makes it so exciting, is we work on a diverse set of marketing strategies and tactics. So if you go and visit the Product Marketing Alliance website, there was a really great article posted earlier this year where survey responses of what do PMMs say that they do. As you can see, this is a very long list of things that people are doing in product marketing. So what you need to do, and only you can do this for your own organization and your team, what is going to be the most necessary. Ideally, of course, you want someone who's done all of it, but if they're perfect in everything, they're probably overqualified for your role and will quickly outgrow it. So really think about what are essential, what do you want them to have transferable skills to help them be successful in it, but also what is mandatory so that you're going to see someone ramp up and to succeed quickly. So thinking about those requirements or must-haves versus nice-to-haves will really, even before you write that job description, at least crystallize your vision of what the person should look like. Let's talk about diversity then as well. So I think one of the most sometimes underappreciated elements when you are building that job description is thinking about how you can build diversity into that process. Look at your existing team and thinking about the ways they solve problems. Are they creative? Do they have a variety of skills and backgrounds and ways of thinking that allows for diversity, which is going to help your products and your go-to-markets and your adoption strategies be so much stronger. So are they diverse in terms of their ways of thinking, and also, of course, their backgrounds in terms of gender and underrepresented racial groups. So keep those things in mind, and where possible, you can start to think about how to weave it into your job description. All of that said, I really want to make sure we touch on the fact that must-haves and requirements, that area of your job description, I highly recommend to keep it very small. The reason for this is it will limit your diverse set of people you get into the mix, and it's also going to mean you get fewer people. So studies show that women in general will only apply for roles, or often only apply for roles, where they meet 100% of the requirements. Why put yourself out there if you're not going to get it? Whereas men look at job descriptions and they go ahead and predominantly, again, not all the time, but predominantly studies show men will apply for the role even if they only hit 60% of the requirements or the prerequisites. Also, this is cultural as well. Some cultures are just less risk averse, and so they are not going to be as likely to apply for a role unless they meet all of your requirements. And I look at some job descriptions and they basically put everything into a requirement. So you're immediately going to be limiting the number of people who come into your talent pipeline, and also the mix of the people that you have. Speaking of job descriptions, I think copywriting is an underestimated skill. A lot of job descriptions sound incredibly boring when they are roles that are actually rich and exciting and lots of growth opportunity for individuals. But those job descriptions can be a bit dry. Then on the other hand, you have job descriptions where there's a lot of fun being trying to be added, and words like ninja, guru, and rock star get dropped into the job description. I want you to pause for a moment, and when someone says ninja, guru, and rock star, what is the type of person? Like, imagine what that person, what do they do? What do they look like? Most of you may have actually inadvertently imagined a male. So gender-coded words, and avoiding those gender-coded words rather, is going to also be important when you are writing your job description. Telling someone they are a product marketing ninja doesn't actually tell them very much about what you're looking for. So keep that in mind to avoid gender-coded language. All right, switching gears. I believe another really important opportunity for you to make your lives a lot easier and speed up this process is working very closely with your recruiter in a hand-in-hand partnership. So your recruiter or talent acquisition specialist is really there to help you find the right person as quickly as possible, because they probably have another hiring manager they need to start focusing on next. So it's all about kind of speed, but also quality. That said, a lot of people don't fully understand what product marketing is. It's a newer function of marketing compared to, say, event marketing or brand marketing. So a lot of people that I work with sometimes say I'm in product, for example, which isn't true. I have a very different set of skills, experiences that I bring to the table than someone in product would. So it's important to spend a little time with your recruiter and talk about an overview of the role, an overview of what you're looking for, but also use this time to have them kind of stress test, do you have too many requirements in here, and what can you do to really open up the role? I highly recommend a lot of companies start to rethink, for example, whether or not you make a degree a requirement. Obviously, fields like medicine, you want to see that someone has an advanced degree, but the fact of the matter is not everyone has an opportunity to go to a university and pursue higher education. So really think about, are you going to remove someone from your candidate mix because they didn't have a degree? You may need it for your line of business, but just keep that in mind. Location questions also are coming up a lot more. At least personally, I receive messages on LinkedIn every day from someone asking me about LinkedIn's remote work policy. So think about that. Make sure you understand that before you go into the job hunting process with the recruiter or candidate hunting process. That said, the responsibility of filling the talent pipeline does not sit squarely on the shoulders of your recruiter. At LinkedIn, people managers are expected to be talent magnets. A talent magnet, the way we think about it, is someone who has the ability to attract, retain talent, also nurture talent, I believe. So thinking about the attracting talent area, what can you be doing in your everyday life, even when you're not hiring, to make sure you're well connected and you could possibly fill your talent pipeline with people that you think are ready for this role? So there's lots of things you can do. You can join industry bodies. I'm a member of the IAB UK, which is important for me in that I work with digital ad products and I'm based in London. I'm also, of course, a member of the Product Marketing Alliance, perfect for me since I'm looking to hire product marketers. Mentoring other people is also very helpful. Using university outreach. So a lot of universities have career days and things where you can go visit them. My challenge to you, though, is to go somewhere that is not your alma mater. Remember, you probably, hopefully, are thinking about diversifying the ways of thinking. Think about what universities you yourself didn't go to, or that the majority of people on your team didn't go to, if you're looking for kind of early career product marketers to join your team. Those are some examples of external ways you could be thinking about filling your talent pipeline. There's also networking internally. Especially if you're an enterprise organization, you may find that a lot of people are really interested in product marketing. And the more interviews you listen to, and such as that the Product Marketing Alliance puts together, the more interviews you listen to, hear other people's background, you may have come to product marketing through another role to begin with, and you are not alone. It's, again, a newer function. So you may have people in sales, for example, that are really interested in product marketing. So why not talk to them? You may also have internal programs that you want to use. I'll talk about some ones that we do at LinkedIn as well. But all of that aside, if you are not hiring actively, definitely set those expectations. The worst thing you could do is to lead someone on that they think they could be potentially interviewing for the role in a matter of weeks, and then this relationship stretches out for months and it's not what their expectations were. So always set those expectations. Now, a couple of things that I've done and my colleagues in Asia Pacific region have done are to try out a couple of different internal recruiting tactics as well. I'm a big fan of mentoring others, both officially and unofficially. I've done both. You can really start to understand, especially if it's unofficial, from the people that you work with, your partners across business lines or even within marketing. What are their career goals, and do they have some transferable skills that would be a good fit to move into product marketing? And then I try to think of ways to give them an ability to work with me on projects so that they can further their skills. When I've done this, I've been successful either finding someone to join my team, or just really setting up a friend for success going out so they can interview externally and moving into a product marketing role, which is an amazing feeling to have as a people manager. The other thing I have seen done really successfully, my colleague in APAC piloted a program called PMM Champions. She was kind of an army of one, incredibly understaffed as a product marketer for an entire region like Asia Pacific. So she set up a PMM Champions program to kind of have a cohort of people that she could allow them to have more experience and do PMM related things and really extend and scale her efforts. So there was also a lot of like one-on-one training that she offered them to kind of educate them on how to best do things. And then this past year, we've even put budget behind this program. And with the PMA, we've done the PMM certified course for them. So I highly recommend taking advantage of programs like PMM certified or any of the relevant courses, because it takes the onus off of you to do all of the training. They can do some of the training, and then you can kind of fill in the gaps for your own style or your company's process. All right. Interview process. It's a two-way street with interviews. I always see it as they are interviewing you and your company as much as you are interviewing them. So a couple of things to make sure you get the most out of your interviews. You're really only going to have between 30 or 60 minutes to make an incredibly important decision. I like to try and think like a journalist when I'm going into interviews and try and get the candidate talking and sharing what is important for me to understand their capabilities as much as possible. So to do that, first of all, you have to avoid yes/no responses. The best way to do that is through open-ended questions. Really spend some time to think about your questions ahead of time and craft them so that they are open-ended, using words like how, why, or tell me about a time. These things are very good at ensuring the candidate needs to answer more than yes or no. Probing, people are nervous, remember, in interviews. It can be uncomfortable and awkward. Maybe they don't do it very often. So I definitely like to probe a little deeper if they haven't explained their thoughts clearly enough, and make sure I understand what their answer is. And also silence. Not everyone is an extrovert. Some people just get a little bit tongue-tied to get in the nerves. So make sure you are offering them the privilege of silence for a moment if they have to think of an answer. It's probably a lot shorter and less awkward than you think it is. So make sure to give them that. In terms of the way they answer questions, I thought I'd also share with you the way LinkedIn likes to evaluate responses from candidates. A lot of other tech companies use this as well. For those that are not familiar with it, it's called the STAR model. There's a whole framework for it. The purpose is because everyone speaks differently and answers differently. You want to make sure they're explaining their answer in a way that allows you and anyone on your interview panel to give fair and balanced feedback on that. So make sure they are answering, when you ask them a question, that they explain the STAR, the situation, task, action, results. So what was the situation? What challenges were involved that they tried to overcome? What specific actions did they take as individuals to solve the challenge? And then what was the impact of that action? Super important to think about. Now, your interview panel should hopefully be using that same process. If you don't officially use the STAR model, there's lots of articles online about this, actually. I highly recommend sharing that with them if you're not already using it. Your interview panel is critical because it's going to give you a vision of this person that is not limited to your eyes only. So, and again, it's an ability for them to interview your organization. I actually always advise people I'm mentoring, if you've interviewed at a company and only spoke to one person, that's a red flag, because you're not actually getting to see who else in the organization you would be working with. So I try to find stakeholders that would be part of their day-to-day experience and projects they would be working on. I also like to make sure as much as possible that there's a diverse set of voices, people who come from different backgrounds, whether it's gender, URGs, to make sure that I'm really thinking about the candidate in a way that is not limited by my own perspectives. And then I also like to make sure that they will make this a priority, especially if they're hiring managers themselves. They're going to be really busy. That said, you can make their life a bit easier by helping them prepare. So preparing your panel is really important. First of all, respect their time. Personally, for me, I would ideally only take between 1 and 3 candidates for an interview process with them, so I can set an expectation in advance. I'd love for you to be on my panel. You will only need to devote this much amount of time, 1 to 3 hours. I also have to remind them, because I'm looking across functionally, what PMM does. Remember, sales may think PMM really works on sales enablement. Your content marketing team may think you just work on positioning. So remind them what a PMM function is and what you specifically are looking for, and explain to them why they're part of the interview process. They shouldn't all be looking for the same thing. They'll run out of time. So try and isolate within that 30 to 60-minute interview you have set up what they should be looking for. And of course, thank them. We have tools and ways we can recognize appreciation and gratitude at LinkedIn, which is lovely, but even just an email really thanking someone or taking them out for coffee goes a long way, especially if you're going to be having them interview more candidates in the future. Now, I send them kind of that pack, if you will. I thought you might like to see what I send to my panelists. Again, I remind them what a PMM does, and then I tell them what I think a PMM responsibility of my organization should be most focused on in terms of our pillars. So I created these pillars for the most recent role I was recruiting for, and then I aligned one person for each pillar. So for example, with marketing strategy and execution, I asked a colleague in content marketing if she would do an interview. And then I actually wrote between 4 and 6 interview questions for every single person that was part of the panel. I explained to them they didn't have to use these questions, but if they wanted to, this would be great, but also it could help inspire them to get at the answers and the learnings I was trying to have them do. All right. Lastly, I want to make sure we talk about the candidate's perspective. Again, they could reject or decline the offer. And now you've wasted 40+ days trying to move someone through this process. So how can you make sure you're thinking about them? At LinkedIn, our candidates kind of, again, they go through that funnel from application all the way to offer and then onboarding. It's very important to think about how you and your company and your team of stakeholders are showing up at every process so that they really feel like they're going to thrive and have the things that they need and want by joining your team. So of course, we need to know more about our target audience as marketers. So I sent out a poll on LinkedIn and I asked candidates what is most important to them, again, limited to 4 options. I really wanted to see what people were thinking. And these are the answers that I got. Career growth and mobility is a driving factor for people. They want to know that they can stay with you for the long haul and that their career trajectory is going to go up and to the right. Compensation package, very important as well. Brand trust and safety, a little lower. Company culture, and I'm guessing some people kind of thought about colleagues in the company culture as well, is another thing that's important. Now, do I trust this data? Sorry if some of the screen's cut off. The data is accurate? I don't know how much I trust it because I received a lot of comments from people privately talking about money. Money is a huge factor. Not all cultures and not all generations are raised with a comfort level of talking about money. And at the end of the day, when they get that offer, if it's below what they're currently making, you are going to be at a substantial disadvantage, especially if they have competing offers. So if your candidate is interviewing actively, they may have competing offers. So money, of course, is going to be a table. I also received a lot of comments about flexible work and messages saying like this to them is a table stake in the aftermath and ongoing elements related to COVID specifically. So make sure that you're thinking about that. Also, lots of comments that what matters to them are their colleagues and managers. It helps with retention as well. I'll just say that we as professionals spend more hours per day with our colleagues than we do our loved ones and our families. So really thinking about how this experience, are they going to feel like they belong and feel included on your team, is not to be underestimated. So I wanted to actually get a little more scientific data to put forward for you guys. I highly recommend checking out LinkedIn's Employee Wellbeing Report that was launched this autumn here in the UK. It really looked into what people want at work. Unfortunately, across 2020, 2021, employee happiness around the world declined and burnout increased. So just kind of keep that in mind when thinking about your job description and the OKRs your team is going to have. In terms of what organizations can do, though, what I found the most interesting in the report is this graph. So we asked, and hopefully you can see my mouse, we asked candidates and employees what's important for them, and companies what they have a priority on delivering. The middle ground was great, right in line, but it was top and tail in terms of what a company thought was important and what a candidate and an employee did. So for example, work-life balance here, very important for candidates, but companies not seeming to prioritize this compared to providing challenging work and flexible work arrangements. So make sure you're thinking about this. And if your company offers something in this range in terms of a benefit, as a hiring manager, make sure that's in your job description. It'll really help set you apart. That's coming to a close. Thank you very much for joining me today. My 3 things I'll leave you with in terms of a recap are to spend that time thinking about the essential skills, transferable skills and experiences you would have, and not to have too many requirements when building out that job description. And spend the time with that job description to increase your diversity. really devote time into thinking through that interview process. That panel is being interviewed by your candidate just as much as you are interviewing them. And lastly, well, I repeated myself there. So your candidate is interviewing you as well. My name is Jen Bunting. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for staying with me for the past 20 plus minutes. Have a great day.
Hi everyone, we hope you're enjoying the Masters of Product Marketing Summit so far. Just before we jump into the next session, I want to share some info on some very exciting projects we have been working on here at PMA. As you know, here at PMA, we are dedicated to elevating the role of product marketing. But as the function grows, we have been focusing on how to develop the best product marketing leaders for now and the near future. Two exciting ways we have been doing this is through our Product Marketing Certified Leadership course and the introduction of our exec membership plan. Product Marketing Certified Leadership will equip you with the insider knowledge you need to create a lasting, successful career as a product marketing leader. In it, we'll equip you with the fundamental skills required to guide your team with authority, confidence, influence, and innovation. Our exec membership plan gives you all the benefits of our awesome Pro plan, in addition to our exclusive leadership community, strategic templates and frameworks, leadership peer councils, monthly masterminds, a recruitment hub, and a whole lot more. We will be sharing more details on both of these throughout the week, but if you want to chat in more depth, why not reach out to me through the PMA Slack community. But for now, on to the next talk.
Hello, everyone, and very warm welcome to the Fireside Chat on the topic of the path from PMM to CMO. And I have Kimberly Storen here, the Chief Marketing Officer at Zayo. And today we're going to touch a little bit about this topic on, on your journey, specifically on what it takes to move from a product marketing professional to progress into a leadership role and ultimately the C-suite. Kimberly has undertaken this journey, and recently I have undertaken a similar journey. So we're very much looking forward to discussing this with you. So to start up, I think I would introduce myself here. I am Sue Simha, and I'm the CMO of Morrisier, and I'm based in Berlin. And I've been about in the industry for 20 years now in different roles, and in fact, started my career in product marketing with Microsoft, and then moved into a variety of roles in different industries, and just recently took on the position with Morrisier, which is into research, early stage research, and virtual conferences. And I'm very, very pleased here to have Kimberly with me here, and I'm very much looking forward to introducing you guys to her. So Kim, over to you. Why don't you introduce yourself around who you are, what you do, and where you're from, and tell us a little bit about your journey.
Absolutely. So it's so great to co-host this with you. I think this is going to be a fun conversation and a chance to really share our journeys with the product marketers that are attending. So I am Kim Storen. I am the CMO at Zayo. We are about a little more than a $2 billion communications infrastructure company. And my path to CMO was a little bit unique because I actually started my career in public relations and then transitioned to management consulting at Deloitte. And so I spent most of my time leading M&A integrations before making the move into B2B marketing at Fortune 500 companies. So after I was at Deloitte, I went to companies like Dell, AMD, and IBM. And I even had a stint at a growth stage startup. So Sue, your transition from Microsoft to startup is one that that I gave a shot to, and it was not necessarily the right path for me. So I'm really curious to hear about your experiences in that transition. And then after that stint in a startup, I returned to the place where I feel the most passion and my comfort level, which is transformation. And so I've led product marketing teams, I've designed and developed categories, and I've also led pretty large scale product branding initiatives. And now I get to put all of that together as a CMO in a transformation stage organization.
So wonderful to hear that. And I think it's very interesting, Kim, the way you talked about, your experience starting with PR. I think PR often, is the very first, front facing angle of, how we tell the story to markets. And I think your experience with M&A and definitely the kind of combination of knowledge about financials and knowledge about, storytelling has definitely been probably one of the best strengths I would assume. So I think similarly with me, I think coming from a very analytical background with engineering and then moving into the path of product marketing, where you really have to understand the whole financials, understand the strategy side of the world, has been really interesting. And actually, I've really enjoyed the startup world, I must say, to some extent, although I have not yet given up on that. So we'll see how that pans out. But wonderful. Thank you so much for telling us your journey. And I think it was very fascinating. It's very interesting, we're often seeing many PMMs go the CMO direction. And I think it seems like the perfect fit, but although I would still love to understand from you what makes, good PMMs, really great marketing leaders and especially great CMOs, in your opinion.
Yes, I think it's a few things that really set product marketing apart from other marketers. And I think it is the strategic mindset. To your point, right, we as product marketers have to understand the entire go-to-market model as well as the financial model. How do all these pieces come together? We have to be thinking ahead, right? We are execution oriented in some ways, but we also bring a really strategic mindset because we're building that full plan for the year out, sometimes 3 to 5 years in terms of where the organization is in its journey. Product marketers put the customer first in everything they do. From personas to value props to messaging and positioning to competitive analysis. At the end of the day, the customer is the hero in that story, and product marketing is probably the best function within an organization to continue to remind. We see so many organizations that always put the organization at the center of the story. And it really takes product marketing to lay down the law and remind the rest of the organization, no, the customer is the hero of the story, not us. We are just enabling them. So I think that's really key. Product marketers are also oriented around the market. So they're constantly looking at what's next in the market. Where's the industry heading? What's the competition doing? And that market orientation is a really critical skill set as you continue to move up the marketing career path as well. Alignment with product and sales is another one that I see. You see it in revenue marketing to a certain extent, but it's really innate, right? It's a really innate collaborator that you see in those product marketing roles, and being able to understand the nuance of sales and the nuance of product, and being able to find that middle ground between the two of them is really a strength of product marketing. And then lastly, to your point around PR and communications, making the complex simple is what product marketing does at the end of the day. And product often can get in the weeds, and it's all about the speeds and the feeds and what the product does, whereas that product marketer can really step back and say, how do we take this super complex technology and make it really easy for the customer to understand? And so when you put all those 5 elements together, you have a really, really strong path to CMO.
That is a fantastic way of putting it across. I think, Kim, I couldn't really agree with you more than that. I think the fact that you combine the strategy plus the simplicity, kind of that really ties in very well. In fact, often in my, when I build teams, product marketing teams, I also kind of define product marketing to be that mini CMO for that product line, let's say, or that segment in that sense. And it's that real partnership, that central, force actually in an organization, which really kind of makes this very strong. I think I would say that PMs are probably in the best position to go up the ladder to the CMO role. And I think this very traits that you talked about, I think very well articulated. So thank you so very much for putting that forth. I think that brings me to my next question, very similarly in those lines, so we understand what it takes to PMMs, to really what makes PMMs good leaders and what makes PMMs potentially good CMOs. What in your perspective or your journey would you suggest would be those steps that they need to take to get to that senior leadership, and how was your journey in that kind of direction?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a very introspective marketer. I guess I should say I'm a very introspective person in general. And so I think a lot around where those inflection points have been in my career. And what are the things that have made me successful? And not that everyone's path is the same, because I think everyone's journey is different and unique to their strengths. But I think there are a couple of places and intersections in your career where you have to really think strategically about what's next. And as a marketer, the first one that we typically see is making the decision between being a specialist or a generalist. And I decided pretty early on, and I think it was client service and management consulting that really helped me, choose the generalist route. But I realized I just am a curious person. And so I like to understand how all the pieces fit together. And I want to understand how brand drives the business, and how product marketing drives the business, and how revenue marketing drives the business, and how analyst relations can help us see that path, and how PR can help go create a real air cover in the market. And so I always was just really curious and wanted to have that generalist experience. And so for me, in a large company especially, that was a really big inflection point for me in my career. Because what I realized is, as a CMO in a large enterprise, you have to be, just smart enough to be dangerous on all the elements of marketing. I think it's different when you are in a startup world, because a lot of what you have to focus on early on is making those MQL to SQL numbers, and really focused on revenue marketing, and also really focused on product marketing, because ultimately being able to articulate the product market fit and the right personas in that early stage startup is really critical. So I think, depending on what kind of enterprise you're in or what kind of enterprise you want to be in, making sure that you're being really strategic around that choice to be a specialist or generalist. Both paths can get you where you want to go, but it takes a lot of thought and introspection to figure out where you're heading. I don't know if you've seen the same thing, or if you've had that similar inflection point in your career.
No, I think I completely agree with you. Interestingly, I think in my experience, I find that often in the B2C space, things are slightly different than the B2B space. I think, like you rightly mentioned, in the B2B world, I think, you can be a strong product marketer and be able to build on to that, because often in the B2B journey, you're really appealing to the decision makers who are a lot more strategic and value content, value certain aspects of how you tell the story. On the contrary, in the consumer world, what I have often seen is it's really about that pace of acquisition, of consumer acquisition. So it's a lot about the growth aspects, and I think the performance marketing kind of takes on a higher importance in that world. So I think while I completely agree that you have to be a multi-channel owner to really grow as a leader, but at the same time, I think the path you may choose in the space of consumer side, I think I've often seen that a specialist from the growth or performance marketing, as we call it now, or digital marketing, often can become a multi-channel owner and then grow towards the CMO role. And in the B2B space, it's often the product marketing, kind of growing into that generalist, strategic direction and kind of becoming the CMO role. So I think I completely agree with you on the overall specialist versus generalist. And I think it takes time and it takes maturity to really get to that stage. But, hey, depending on the size of the company, you can start early or you can start a little later.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think the other inflection point is a fake inflection point, like one that's self-created. So we've convinced ourselves as marketers that you have to pick what type of CMO you want to be. Do you want to be a growth CMO, a product CMO, or a brand CMO? And I think ultimately we have to turn that on its head, because we have to be all three, right? We have to understand how to grow the business. We have to understand how the product brings value to the market. And we have to create a brand and a customer experience that pulls that all together and helps us stand for something with our customers and the people that we wish were our customers. So I think, we ultimately, that was a big learning for me, because I think for a long time I was trying to fit into one of those boxes. And what I realized is I want to be all, I want my CMO brand to be all three: growth, product, and brand. And really the thing that makes me unique as a leader is my ability to put all those pieces together and to understand the complexities of those three buckets. But it's also that I build high performing teams, and that ultimately, I don't have to be the product ninja or the growth ninja or the brand ninja, right? Because I know how to bring together the right people who complement my strengths and bring them in, so that that team becomes high performing and I can be all three of those things. I also think the other pivot point for me was something I learned in management consulting, which is take on the hard stuff, and the harder, the better. And I found that really enabled me to take those steps towards senior leadership. I raised my hand for a lot of things that other people thought was, insane or crazy or too hard to do. I remember at Dell, one of the acquisitions that I was working on, and I was running the sales and marketing integration, and we couldn't get the back office systems to talk to each other in the integration. And nobody wanted the job of trying to figure out how to get these back office systems. And it really didn't, it was important for my sales and marketing role, but really I shouldn't have been the owner of it. But I raised my hand and I said, give that to me. Like, I will continue to do my sales and marketing work, but I'm gonna pick this up. And as a result of that, my career accelerated. I got visibility with Michael Dell. I got visibility with the SVPs, and I fixed a problem that was really broken. And so what I learned is ultimately being able to have those tough conversations and straight talk is really important. But you're never going to be in those meetings unless you raise your hand and take on the hard stuff and take on the projects that no one wants. So I think that's a big piece too.
Yeah, I think I couldn't agree more on that. I think it's super important to be bold, take risks. I think I also very much relate to your point around building solid teams. I think end of the day, you can't be a do-all, like you rightly mentioned. I think, leaders who can recognize good talent and hire good talent and bring on those people, on board, who can actually run that machine much more effectively than you individually can, I think is really the testament to, being a good leader and being a good CMO in that sense. And interestingly, this brings me to my next question, around, as a leader, when you think about this overall picture, what do you look for when you are promoting internally in terms of when you recognize talent? So let's talk a little bit about talent and, in terms of, promotions and, when you really want to give opportunities and, raise people internally. What are some of the traits that you look for?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, for me, I love to find those diamonds in the rough. And I think if you talk to anyone who has worked for me, I mean, I've brought people with me from company to company. I have invested a lot in having diversity of background and voice and experience to have a seat at the table. And so what that means is I have to look for people that don't look like me and don't think like me. But there's a couple of attributes that I see across the board, right? And that transcend, my view of diversity, right? Which is curiosity, agility, and an appetite for calculated risk. One of the questions that I ask when I interview folks, especially product marketers, but marketers in general, is tell me the failure that you're the most proud of. And it throws them for a loop, because first of all, like, I can see, like, well, are you energized by failure? Are you comfortable taking calculated risk? And are you curious enough to look forward but are you also agile enough? And I don't mean agile with a capital A, right? Although that's great too, but agile with the lowercase a, where like, can you look back and see what's working or not working and adjust your strategy as a result? So I see that those attributes really cut across experience and capabilities. Bias for action is another one that I look for. It's like, I don't want a lot of stargazing or navel gazing. We have to build our North Star. We have to build our guardrails, but can we do that quickly enough to start demonstrating the value of marketing? And then the last one, of course, is ownership and accountability. I love The Speed of Trust by Stephen Covey. And one of the things he talks about in that book is you can't build trust without demonstrating that you can do the work, right? And that ultimately being able to have that accountability and that ownership of your work and meet your commitments is really critical to get to that next level of trust. And so I look for people that are willing to take on those commitments, that are open to having those hard conversations. None of us are perfect. None of us meet our commitments every time. And if anyone tells you that they do, they're lying. So can you have those honest conversations, whether it's around, failure that you're proud of, or commit an accountability that you didn't hit? Because the only way you grow and drive change is by being willing to have those hard conversations.
Indeed. I think those are some really good traits that you look for. I think very similarly, in addition to what you just mentioned, I think a couple things that I have often seen, or, what has really triggered me to promote some of my previous reports in previous companies has always been also the ability to bring everybody together. I think it's super crucial to be able to, not just row the ship, but actually be able to bring everybody else to kind of, see that big picture and drive this. So that influence over authority, I think, is so crucial in that kind of, internal promotions. And I think often we look for leaders by default. I would say that, I think all these traits that you mentioned are so very much natural to strong leaders. And I think in those lines, I might actually ask you something interesting here. Is often we see, obviously, this is very much, for everyone, but often there are many, candidates who are underconfident, about themselves, no matter how good they are in those aspects, especially women. I think there are many challenges, just social cultural challenges or whatever that could be. What do you recommend, or what's your advice for some of those team members who are actually doing very good in all these aspects that you talked about, but don't seem to have the confidence, to go out there and apply for a higher position or move up the chain?
So I think it starts with finding a good mentor, right? Someone who can coach you and help you understand the intrinsic value that you bring to the table. I think a lot of it too is preparation. I always say to somebody, like, write it down. Every month, every quarter, every year, I go through this of like, what's my biggest accomplishment? And that doesn't mean like a task list. That means like, what's the thing? If I saw, my CEO in an elevator and he said, what have you been working on for the last month? And like, what's that thing I'm so proud to share? And so going through that exercise and actually tracking the things that I'm proud of and my accomplishments gives me the confidence. Yes, like I can absolutely go have a conversation about this job. And it's just as hard. I think sometimes people think, well, once you get to a certain place in your career, it's easy. Like every transition is hard, whether it's from VP to CMO, or if it's, coordinator to manager, right? And being able to share that story and your personal brand. And so I always say, like, spend some time writing it down, because writing it down gets it in your head where you've got that elevator pitch ready to go.
What a great tip. I'm going to make a note of it too, Kim. So no, it's always wonderful to, to hear how other leaders think about, how they increase their, value in that kind of, mindset perspective. So wonderful. Let's switch gears a little bit. And I think, I would love to talk to you a little bit about some of the recent trends and some of the transformations we are seeing, at least, some of these elements that we're seeing in the industry. Love to hear some thoughts on the recent transformation of chief marketing officers to chief chief market officers. And what do you think, this will impact, or, how this will change, going forward into this role of CMO in the near future? What are some of your observations in the industry, and what are some of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think, the concept of a chief market officer is a mindset more than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And if you really step back and think about it, there's no other function within the C-suite that has an ing on their title. We don't have chief selling officers or chief designing officers. The leadership team is comprised of the chief customer officer, the chief people officer, the chief product officer. And so while, we will probably still see chief marketing officer as the title, can we shift to a chief market officer mindset? And that really means that we focus on our number one mandate, which is being the voice to and the voice of the market. And that means in everything that we do, right? Whether I'm presenting to the board or presenting to my executive team or my peers, I always start with the market. And it's shifting that mindset of, I'm not just a tactical CMO, right? And the tactics right now, you can get caught up in the MQLs, you can get caught up in the tweets, you can get caught up in the, the minutia of event planning. And we have all these things in our toolbox, but at the end of the day, can we step back and really be that voice to and the voice of the market? And that requires, bigger and, really strategic contributions to the leadership team, to our board, to our company overall. It means that we focus on market insights. We focus on the customer experience. We are constantly thinking about category development and positioning within that category. And all those things are still in our toolbox, and that's how we go do those things, right? We take that market insight so that we can go drive leads. We take that, we take the customer journey and that customer experience so that we can drive retention and minimize churn and drive a larger share of wallet. We focus on the category development because we want to go drive, great product marketing content that ladders up to that. But we have to stop thinking about how we do things and think about why we do them. And so that means we have to stop living and dying by the MQL and start to bring that broader view of success, which is really a broader, view of business success, and continue to drive a business strategy and deliver a go-to-market strategy that, drives value and growth for the business, that we're still able to track our metrics, but we're starting to track the metrics that are clearly aligned to revenue and growth versus tracking all metrics just to check a box. And so I really view this, and I think we're starting to see it. We're starting to see the CMOs take on digital experience, take on the customer experience overall, be the right hand when it comes to strategy. And I think the more that we can step up and lead from the market versus leading from that ING, right, the execution, the more credibility that we'll have, I believe, the longer tenure we'll start to see. CMOs don't have a long tenure. And so again, I think as we shift to this mindset to being the chief market officer, product marketing really aligns there, right? The voice to and of the market, that is ripe for a product marketer to come in and own.
So insightful and absolutely on the point. I think the very fact that you understand the market is what defines you as the, marketing head in that sense. And I think, the product marketing is, function, or, the person is so well positioned in this space. And I think it's very fascinating the way you outlined it, Kim, because often, we think about that we take it for granted that, marketing team by default should be the voice of customer. But I think taking that step back and thinking about it is so very fascinating. And the way you reflected on it almost makes me think, that I probably need to convey this much better to my teams in future. So thank you for that. And something on similar lines I have been observing lately in the last few years. Now, obviously, it wasn't the case, 5 years ago, but in the recent last 2 to 3 years, especially in the startup worlds, there's a sudden shift and change. Especially, of course, with Dropbox coming on board, with Generalist talking about growth hacking, and suddenly there's a shift from chief marketing officer or marketing to becoming more of a growth and calling it a chief growth officer. And what are some of the unique, changes, or rather adaptations that, maybe the chief marketing officers need to take in order to kind of drive that growth or kind of become the chief growth officers? Or from your perspective, do you see a difference between chief marketing officer and chief growth officer? What are some of your thoughts on it? Because I have some opinions, clearly. I would love to hear your perspective and your thoughts on that front.
Yes, I think, again, I think there's a little bit of a difference of what we're seeing in large enterprises versus startups. And I think you are seeing a trend towards this concept of chief growth officer in startups. I mean, we saw the transition to chief revenue officer years ago, right? And now chief growth is almost like, chief revenue like 2.0 in a lot of ways. And I think some organizations are defining a chief growth officer as a way to rebrand marketing, right? Some are actually looking at it as a way to further combine sales and marketing into one organization. And this is my personal opinion. I don't know that my CMO peers will completely agree, but I do think that there is a risk of combining sales and marketing into one cohesive organization in that way. That is now, I am in a sales and marketing organization, so I'm not saying that overall, but I guess my point is that there's risk in not recognizing the inherent value of marketing. And so while I love the concept of rebranding marketing to growth, I also think that there is a risk of bucketizing, all sales and marketing as the same. And I don't think that that's where marketing should head, because there is a different value that we bring to the table. And like I said, if growth equals MQL, we're in trouble. If growth equals strategic view and the voice of the market and the voice to the market, then I think it's a great way to start to reframe the narrative. But as I was interviewing with organizations in my transition, I really was, looking hard to understand, like, do you recognize the inherent value of marketing? And, do you understand the strategic view that I can bring to the table and that my team can bring to the table? And so I think it really, like, you can call marketing whatever you want at the end of the day. And many organizations are rebranding it, but do they recognize that inherent value? And I think that's the debate that I would want to really get underneath the hood of if I was joining as a chief growth officer. So am I living and dying by the MQL? Or is this just a different way to show the value that marketing is bringing to the table?
Indeed. It's very, very different. And I think it's very interesting because I think in the last few years, I have seen this trend, and I almost wonder sometimes, when founders look at it this way, do they really understand marketing? Like you rightly said, do they even understand, what exactly is the difference here between growth and marketing? And I think growth, in a sense, is the outcome and output of marketing to me. Right. And in many ways, you can package it anyway. And often we marketing people are often culprits in terminology, creation in that sense. Often, we used to call it digital marketing. Now we call it performance marketing. So it's a very different aspect. And I think the transition from the web to the app world also has brought in a different perspective, especially the consumer side of the world. And so naturally, there is a focus on acquisition and retention than just pure sale and deal closing. And I think that transition probably is what has resulted in many companies kind of hang on to this terminology of growth officer. But I think it's a huge danger, like you rightly said, it's a huge danger if they don't understand the value of what marketing, and marketing in a sense is everything growth. And I think rightly, sales is end of the day sales organization, especially in the B2B side of the world. In the B2C side of the world, it's often marketing driving the end-to-end, closing of, and conversion and closing. So to me, it's really just a fancy way of saying chief marketing officer in a different way. But end of the day, it is the whole concept of driving growth as an outcome of, the market understanding and market efforts. So I think my advice to anybody, any founders here who are probably listening is, don't confuse it. Don't go looking for chief growth officers. Identify really good CMOs, really good marketing leaders, and bring them onto the journey to drive that outcome of growth for your company. And I think that's probably how I see it. But
I love that.
We'll see how that works out. But this is wonderful. Kim, are there any last thoughts from your side for the product marketers who are on this, listening to this fireside chat? Any final thoughts from your side for them? Any guidance from your side for them?
No, I think, the biggest piece of advice I can give you is find the right mentor and shoot for the stars, because we need, as CMOs, I think, Sue, you'll probably say the same thing. We need great product marketing by our side. And we want to create room at the table for our successors to be product marketers, because they bring that right mindset. So start thinking big and start finding the right mentors, and find organizations and leaders that value what product marketing brings to the table, because there's so much that you guys can really help us with in terms of transformation, growth, turnaround, positioning, category creation. We need product marketing at the table. So raise your hand, take on those big challenges, and find the organizations that value, the uniqueness of the product marketing role.
Indeed. That's so well articulated, so well said, Kim. I think, so all you product marketers out there, please hear out Kimberly, and don't be shy. You are actually quite strong people in that sense for marketing world. So go out there and go conquer it all. So that's wonderful. Kim, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. And it's been wonderful having this discussion. And I hope that this is extremely useful and valuable for our audience. And hopefully, they can get in touch with you. I think there would be your contact details probably in the information.
Yes,
and anyone who wants to get in touch, please get in touch. Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, Kim. Lovely talking with you again. Thank you.
It was great to meet you. Thanks.
Likewise.
Whether you're joining a Product Marketing Alliance event for the first time, or if you're a seasoned regular, welcome to Masters of Product Marketing. We have an awesome lineup of leadership-focused content for you to enjoy this week. But before we dive in, I just want to say a huge thank you to our sponsors, partners, speakers, and you, our lovely audience. From wherever in the world you are watching, we're sure you'll enjoy the sessions from our incredible lineup. To get the most out of these sessions, please ensure you are sharing your feedback and asking your questions in the comment section, and our speakers will be answering them throughout the day. And if you aren't already, then why not become a PMA Pro member and benefit from unlimited access to exclusive templates, frameworks, and our entire library of videos and slide decks from all our events. So with all that to come, let's dive right into the next session.
Hey folks, I'm Prashant Chenoy. I'm from Cisco, and today I'm really delighted and excited to be here with you and share some of my experiences and best practices here at Cisco as we transform from a product marketing organization to a customer and customer solutions marketing organization. It's still a work in progress, but we are excited for us and the journey ahead and some of the learnings that we've had along the way. This has been a very interesting time for all of us in the world, coming out of pandemic and in some cases still going through the pandemic. And a lot of our customers have accelerated their digital journey, and we live in an age of information overload. And in this era, I truly believe that the role of product marketing to serve our customers is gotten even more critical than ever before. So hopefully over the next 20 to 25 minutes, you'll hear from me about why we as an organization have an obligation and responsibility to our customers to change the way we do marketing from really focused on products to more focused on customers and their needs. And I call that the shift left strategy. And I'm going to talk more around what are those best practices and focus areas from a marketing perspective that we need to think through as we do this shift left, and some of the learnings and landmines to watch out for when we do this transformation. And throughout, I'll give you some examples to put that into context and make it real for you. Before I get started, I wanted to talk a bit more about my own transformation because frankly, I've been at Cisco for now over 21 years. And that's unique in today's day and age. And a unicorn, I'm a unicorn in my own sense, right? Where we've been in a single company for that long. But it's been a very interesting journey for me since I've transitioned from being a developer and a software engineer to technical marketing to product management to now in the last 10 plus years, truly doing product marketing to solutions marketing to now customer solutions marketing. And as part of this phase, I've been in 7 different organizations from engineering to marketing to sales and marketing, and 13 different teams and 15 different managers over the last 20 plus years. And as you can see, I've undergone my own transformation and my avatars as I've grown here at Cisco too. But the reason why I'm saying this is, as I've made this journey from being an engineer to a customer solutions marketeer, I've done that shift left in my own transformation. And shift left is a term for most of you folks who may be unfamiliar with that. It's a term that was first coined in the world of software testing back in 2001, which was a way of like shifting testing very early on in the development of a product, right? So you're shifting left in the process timeline. And by doing that, the idea was that you're going to find defects very early on and improve the quality of the product that you're providing to the customers. And since then, this term has been co-opted in various different places, whether it's in supply chain, whether it's in product development. And now I'm applying this term to marketing. And this is, I feel, very, very critical for us as a profession. And I'm going to explain this concept from 3 areas, right? What does that mean to be shifting left from a messaging and a value proposition perspective on how we think about articulating the value proposition of a product? What does shift left mean from a go-to-market and route-to-market perspective? And finally, what does shift left mean from how we organize as a team, and what are some of the skill set and culture that we need to build into the team to successfully achieve this shift left? Simply put, in product marketing, shift left truly means it's moving from focusing on product to moving closer to our customers and their actual need. And nowhere is this more critical than in the function of creating that most compelling, radically simple message that truly focuses on what the customer needs are. This is a typical Venn diagram that any product marketer 101 who started doing that knows, right? So on one hand, we have what our product provides, all the bells and whistles and the beautiful functionality that our widget has. And on the other hand, our competitors and what our competitors provide, right? And then we truly have what our customers need to help solve a unique challenge or a set of problems and achieve business outcomes. Where shift left in marketing means is we focus on that sweet spot that we see here, which is what we provide as a unique value proposition that our customers truly need and that our competitors are not quite there yet to deliver, right? And that is the sweet spot of shift left messaging, where you're truly focused on customer outcomes, truly focused on our unique differentiator that only we can solve for our customers that our competitors can't solve. And that takes a while because you always have these forces, whether it's the product managers, whether it's the sales, that want you to talk from a bells and whistles or functionality perspective, that want you to talk from a competitor perspective. The customer is truly interested in how can you help my life simpler, faster, better, happier, more efficient, save me money or make me more revenue, right? And that's that sweet spot in shift left. It's easier said than done, and we've had challenges executing that at Cisco, but over the last couple of years, we are getting better and better at that. We recently did a launch called Future Cloud, where we were unveiling our next generation compute systems. We were unveiling our software solutions to help our customers transition faster to this age of hybrid cloud. And instead of talking about the products and all the functionalities and the core differentiators, we truly focused on two things. It was making IT ops faster and making IT ops smarter. That's it. And we focused on how our cloud neutral automation techniques and solutions that is unique for us help bring that agility and that superpower to IT, and how through AI and ML technologies and through assurance type of capabilities that we have built into the system, we made IT ops smarter. And then we brought our entire products and solutions through use cases and demos to actually explain that faster and smarter concept through automation and observability. That kept the message extremely simple, extremely focused on the outcome. And we brought in industry folks like our CIOs and our customers, our cloud providers, to actually explain the story. And we showcased through a demo how we make it real. So that was one simple example that we have repeated several times successfully, where we were able to take out all the noise and focus on what is most important to our customers. And as we have done that, we've really taken a hard look at what does that mean from our vision, mission, and strategy, right? If we need to rally the entire product marketing team to shift left and think customer first, it needs to be baked in to our vision and mission and our strategy. So number one was we changed the name of our organization from being product marketing to customer solutions marketing. That itself was a big signal that we are here in the service of the most important audience, which is the customers. And our vision was to consistently deliver radically simplified message and bring that connected experience to the market. And how we did that was make our entire very complex portfolio that we have at Cisco around networking, around security, around observability, all come together to act and make and look and feel like one, and bring that experience back to our customers. And then to do that, we had to really make some heavy pivots that I'm going to talk about in the next few minutes in our strategy to transform from a product to more of a platform first and solutions marketing organization, and be the connector, the orchestrator for the entire company, bringing engineering, sales, marketing, finance all together to shape our strategic corporate initiative. This is a work in progress, but it's really helped us bring this together. The second area of focus from a shift left, one was messaging. The second truly is around go-to-market, and frankly, the digital go-to-market. And as we all know, particularly in the B2C, this has been the reality for a long time. But even in the B2B space, we've seen through a lot of research that a majority of our customers prefer to do research digitally versus speaking to a seller. In fact, when they're speaking to the seller, they've already made up their mind in terms of what they want, who are the short list of vendors, and what exactly they are looking at. So we as marketeers have a huge role to play in terms of how do we digitally reach our customers in a way they want us to and provide the right information. So for that, we as an organization had to shift left from a go-to-market focus too, right, in 4 key areas. One was this concept of when we build messaging on our website, we had a one-size-fits-all, right? All industry verticals for all geographies, for all segments was the same story. And that didn't quite work out. And thanks to the marketing tech stack that we have and the hyper personalization capabilities that we now can use to recognize individual customer or customer segment of one and personalize their experience on .com. So when now we go to Cisco.com, we truly know who the account team is, what are they looking for, where they are in the journey of their market, right? From an awareness to a buying to an adoption to a usage phase, and serve up the right content for the right audience at the right time. So that's been a big shift in the way we create content in marketing, as well as where we provide the content and to who. We've also made it vertical specific to education, to manufacturing, to retail, to hospitality, to talk about their use cases and outcomes and how our products uniquely solve that. The other thing, and again, this is very common in the SaaS and software platforms, but we as a company who have a lot of hardware platforms, software and services all working together, we had to do the shift of moving from product marketing to marketing inside of the product, where we showcase the actual user of that dashboard or the operations tool or that platform to say, how can you extract value when you move from this workflow to the next workflow, right? This is still a work in progress, but something that we have truly done for the users of our platform and the offer. The third is expanding our route to markets beyond just sales and channel route to market to more of moving to new areas of market like marketplaces, e-commerce, and as we transition as a company to as a service where we package everything and deliver it as a pay-per-use, how do we explore these new route to markets and serve up content for those route to markets? And these are very different content mix compared to what we provide on our websites, what we provide to our sellers, what we provide to our channel partners. And as we've been doing this, we had to shift from serving traditional audience, the direct users of our products, whether they're NetOps, SecOps, to more of an influencer and line of business audiences like Cloud Ops to the head of facilities to chief people officer. A great example is, for example, our smart building initiative. Especially coming out of COVID, a lot of our customers are looking at how do they think about the workplace of the future as hybrid work happens, and how do they build sustainable, energy efficient, as well as very smart buildings that can understand office space utilization, that can save energy, and that can do things like social distance monitoring, etc. So we took our existing products that were capable of providing all of that information and started serving that to the chief people officer, the chief operating officer, the facility managers, the workplace resource folks that we've never had built a relationship with, right? And that really helped get that use case to that right audience and expand our audience to adjacent market. And this is pretty exciting for us because we learn new things in terms of how our products are actually being used. And the third key area around shift left is really on the team focus. And I feel this is a very, very critical one because as we have all heard, culture eats strategy for breakfast, for example, right? Like you can have all of the technology and tools ready. You can have all of the strategy put in place. But if you don't create a culture, a mindset, and also build the right skill set for our teams and organize the teams in the right way, it's going to be very hard to achieve that shift left of moving closer to the customer and away from the product, because this is truly a mindset shift. And we at Cisco did that through this 5-pronged strategy, right, of shifting left from what we were doing to what we had to be. And frankly, quite a few of these are in various stages of crawl, walk, run, fly phase, if you will. But we built a foundational element for all of this. Number one was breaking silos and moving from a BE and engineering aligned marketing organization to truly a customer focused organization, right? So that was a big shift, one that you can imagine caused a lot of resistance internally, but we realized that was the right thing to do. The second was to move from widgets and individual products to how these products work together as a solution, and how do we build a platform on which our customers can develop their own solution and cater to their own end users and end customers. So that was truly this concept of moving from product to platform and solutions marketing. The third thing was around the Horizon 1 marketing, which is the here and now, right? Sell what's on the truck, and focus on the products that we have capabilities today, to Horizon 2 and 3 marketing, which is what is the art of the possible? Where is this market moving towards? And especially for industry leaders like Cisco, who are market leaders in networking, in security, in collaboration, it is very critical for us to shape the beliefs and transition the market and figure out where are these technology transitions going. So spending time and effort and resource and getting the right skill set who could do Horizon 2 and 3 marketing was extremely crucial for us as an organization. Number 4, as we did all of that, our go-to-market organization also had to shift from having siloed campaigns at a region level, at a per product level, to truly a globally consistent campaign that was very, very aligned to buying centers or personas, right? So we did this where we articulated our thing into C-suite campaigns, to network buyers, to security buyers, to collaboration buyers, and small business, and had a segment-based approach of taking this to market. And this was, again, very tough because the type of content and in the right phase of the journey for this audience had to be created with this customer solutions marketing at the helm. And we had to define this strategy up front and create that consistent model that now can be applied as part of the 5th model to shift from more of a country-focused go-to-market to more of a field product marketing or customer solutions marketing organization. And this is tough, right? Because for a company like Cisco that operates in dozens and dozens of countries, and each country has their unique need. So instead of completely customizing the content and localizing every piece of content that we had created, we wanted to streamline and build consistency so that we all appear as a single company with a key set of use cases, no matter which country we market to. And that was one of the biggest shifts, where we moved our field product marketing organization to focus not just at a country level, but to own that solution for that particular region, right? And they had to be subject matter experts, but also the regional expert to say for that region, how does that solution work? And that was a big shift in the skill set and the culture of these field organizations too. So as you can see, each one of these took us a while to get through and figure out where we had to invest our most time and how do we had to organize the team around these principles. So there's a lot of consolidations of team done, some of the upgrading of skill sets that we had to do to focus more on digital marketeers, audience marketing, solutions marketing, for example, rather than people who came from a technology background. And this was exciting because we built a diversity of thought where we hired candidates and folks from various different places, not just from technology companies and B2B companies, but from B2C company, from journalism, and folks who are working in the media, for example, and people who are working as our end customers in IT organization, in healthcare, in education, and we brought them into our organization. So we can truly be that customer-facing organization. And this has been an exciting journey for us that we plan to scale and learn along the way. So I hope that gave you some ideas around what we here at Cisco have done and transitioned. The key takeaways at the end of the day is, number one, when it comes to shift left from a messaging perspective, truly focus on that single most important audience, which is your customers and their outcomes and the use cases, and not on the features, right? Easier said than done, but we have to be ruthless about that. Number two, you truly need to align the go-to-market and the team and the organization for that shift left. So it's not just about the strategy, but truly the go-to-market for that content strategy as well as the team. And three, no matter what, and this is especially true in a big organization, you have to not go at this journey alone. You got to find your champions for this journey. For us, it is truly bringing in the sales on board and our customer experience team or the CX team, and partnering with them along with our brand and digital and the regional marketing team, all working together to go drive that shift into customer solutions marketing organization. And that helped us scale and make that what we have done as a transformation, this organization, apply at scale to the rest of the company and our partners. So, and that was really exciting because we were all in this together as one big team. So I hope that gave you a quick overview of some of the thoughts from my perspective and my company's perspective in terms of shift left in product marketing and some of the learnings that we've gotten along the way. So thank you for your time and opportunity today. You can always reach me here at my Twitter or LinkedIn ID. And I look forward to having more conversations offline with you. Thank you.
When someone mentions your competitors, does the conversation at your organization swing wildly between willful ignorance and reactive panic? Do people just drop links to competitor news posts in a Slack channel and start freaking out with no context? Or maybe your customer-facing teams are struggling to find clear, consistent, confident responses when they're asked about the competition? You are here because you are ready to become the go-to person at your organization for all things competition. I'm Alex Mcdonald, and I've led market and competitive intel functions at leading SaaS companies like Airtable and Envision. And I've done competitive intel and win-loss analysis as a consultant for SaaS leaders like Gainsight, Seismic, and Toast. And I also host a podcast on CI called Dance Battle, where I speak with fellow practitioners and we talk about all the lessons that we've learned the hard way so that you don't have to. I have taken everything that I wish I knew when I started in competitive intel and curated it into this course. It includes over 2 hours of content and over 10 practical templates that you can start using immediately. In this course, we'll cover first building up your CI function, starting with your listening stack, doing web research, win-loss research, how to create a market map, how to develop your competitive position, and how to write a clear competitive news briefing. Then we'll go deep on how CI serves different stakeholder groups around the organization, with a focus on sales and customer success first, then marketing, product, and finally executives. I hope you'll join me for Competitive Intelligence Certified by the Product Marketing Alliance and me, Alex Mcdonald.
Vidico, how does it work?
You tell Vidico, hey, I need a video. Let's say for a product launch. We say great. We can produce a brand video, case study, software walkthrough, even animation.
That was cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Vidico is like going on a road trip with the fam. Whether you're in tech or e-commerce, we guide you through the whole process and make you a video you'll be dying to share.
an amazing product marketing leader doesn't happen by chance. It happens by habit. Product marketing certified leadership has been built on the back of decades worth of experience from some of the world's best known brands with one goal in mind: helping you be the best leader you can be. Crammed with real life case studies, over 12 hours worth of content, templates, exams, and more, this course is everything you need to lead with authority, confidence, influence, and innovation. Every piece of material within the 7 modules and 29 chapters has been vetted, tested, and approved by senior level product marketers from companies like Amazon, Uber, and HubSpot, serving up game-changing insights throughout. By the time you've wrapped up the final module, you'll be able to define what it takes to be a great product marketing leader, build and scale your team, understand how to successfully manage your existing team, use methods for leveraging data, know how to become the voice of the customer, understand how teams work cross-functionally, and improve your strategic thinking. The beauty of the course is you'll have the freedom to work your way through the modules at a pace to suit you. It's 100% self-paced. You'll even get lifetime access to the curriculum, paving the way for refresher sessions forevermore. Visit productmarketingalliance.com to get leadership certified and spearhead your journey to the top.
Hello, and a very warm welcome to the Masters of Product Marketing Summit. We have an awesome lineup of leadership-focused content for you to enjoy this week. But before we dive in, I just want to say a huge thank you to our sponsors, partners, speakers, and you, our lovely audience, for making this event possible. With expert presentations and specialist talks on the agenda, you are in for a real treat today. Please ensure you are sharing your feedback and asking all questions in the comments section of the video, as our speakers will be answering them throughout the day. After the event, a great place to continue the conversation is in the PMA Slack community. If you aren't already a member, hop on over and come and join the discussion. And if that's still not enough, then why not become a PMA Pro member and benefit from unlimited access to exclusive templates, frameworks, and our entire library of videos and slide decks from all our events. So with all that to come, let's dive right into the next session.
Hi, today we're going to be talking about product video marketing, and in particular we're going to examine 3 strategies that you can employ whether you are a B2B or a B2C product marketer. My name's Michael. I've worked across my fair share of video projects, and some of them have received a large number of views across different online campaigns and television campaigns as well. Really passionate about startups, everything storytelling, and very experienced in video for SaaS and e-commerce in particular. Today, we're going to be covering the attributes of a good product video strategy. We're also going to be looking at the strategy of customer acquisition with a case study from a SaaS company called Cascade. We're also going to be talking about using video for engagement, so different strategy there, and in particular, examples from DigitalOcean and Square. And finally, we're going to look at the goal of retention and how that's used by Spotify. First of all, as a foundation and to set up our framing, it's important to really know what keeps audiences engaged. And I'm going to start by referencing a particular study from Google that had some really interesting results. So they asked 12,000 YouTube viewers, and these were consumer and business accounts, what keeps you engaged with a particular piece of content? And they rank ordered in order of importance these responses. And the first one was really interesting. The response and what was most important was that a video teaches me something new. And there's other interesting responses here, which I'm going to dive into, where it's, the video makes me laugh, it's inspiring, so talking about tone there, it keeps me in the know, so that theme of education coming up twice in the top 6 or 7, and then has high production quality, really not as important as that educative aspect, which is quite interesting. So the learnings there, and these are learnings that we see across the videos that we engage with our customer base, is you really don't want to sell when it comes to product video marketing. You want to actually educate first, and you want to engage audiences really by providing them that feeling of being leveled up in knowledge. Whether it is an acquisition strategy, whether it is engagement or retention, that feeling of being leveled up is the benchmark every single time. The second insight there, which is interesting, and you see the laughing point and the inspiring point, is to really seek a differentiated tone of voice. And if in doubt, you want to ensure that that video is either witty and comedic, if that suits your brand, or it is inspiring. The flat tone, the safe route, we don't often see it rewarded when it comes to customer acquisition. You can get away with it a bit more when it comes to a retention strategy, but bearing that in mind as well, the tone is important. Production quality, it is important, but as you can see, really not as important as perhaps it once was. And, the traditional kind of TV era markers of quality, really not coming through here. If you kind of see those as, having high production quality is on perhaps a network or platform I like, has famous actors, you really don't need to have those aspects anymore if you actually want to be making compelling product videos or campaigns for your brand. Another thing to consider when engaging in a good product video strategy is to actually choose strategy first. So it can be really, really hard to maybe not start with style, not see something on YouTube and say, that's something that I really feel my company should pursue. Inspiration is great and it comes in many forms, but to do this right, we're going to go through an actual cadence and explain how that actually makes sense. So beginning with strategy first is important. Then you examine where that strategy's best distribution lies, and then style, the visual aspect, is something we'll get to. So one particular product marketing goal or strategy, and the most common that we work with at Videco, is that of customer acquisition. So the strategy, for example, if this was a SaaS company, could be get new users, increase ARR. Let's just simplify that. The common distribution for that strategy, depending on whether this is a B2B or a B2C, could be YouTube, could be Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest, and TikTok, yes, even for B2Bs. And you want to begin with distribution in these channels just because the testing and the way to actually measure data is so readily available there. And you then want to go and take that and really amplify with PR where you can. And the PR is going to be a lot more likely to publish. You'd be surprised how much circulation you can get if that actual release includes a video. So just bear that in mind. The actual potential to amplify the effects of what you're doing on social distribution can really, really be improved if you're using video. The style itself that you commonly see for a customer acquisition campaign can be live action or animated, really depends. But the common ones, if we think of our space, you would think of Grammarly, funnels huge spend behind their campaigns. Monday.com, one of the more famous B2B examples. Recently, Honey, has put a lot of spend into YouTube as well. So thinking around what those customer acquisition videos look like gives you an idea there. There's a particular example here, and if we go back to some of the things that were important to users in those viewing habits, the humorous aspect was one, and we looked at that for this video with Cascade, where one of the characters says to the psychologist, we're really scared in our relationship to talk about the S word, and it leads the viewer on for a while. That's obviously quite a hook, and the S word turns out to be the word strategy, which is very much what Cascade is about. It's about setting goals, OKRs, strategy with your software. So the video itself performed really well. It was 1 minute long. Most viewers actually viewed all the way to the end, which is unusually high. And it certainly got its fair share of play there, but just an example around how one focus on that aspect there, which is going to be humor, could actually really drive that creative. The learnings across Cascade and other customer acquisition campaigns that we've run is always to actually use cut downs. So there are, no doubt some effort involved when it comes to these campaigns. So you want to make sure that you're getting the most out of each effort. And to do that, you'd use cut downs. So what I mean by that is you'd have the main story. In Cascade's example, it was 60 seconds, but whether that goes up to 90 seconds because you have larger kind of set of product points to tell, that's okay. But just know that you should also be wanting to get a 30-second version of that video, which has a different variant of the story. It might not actually cover the problem as much, it might just have two main benefits that are being talked about, and I'll explain why in a moment. And then you want an even shorter cut down still, which is 9 seconds. So how you'd situate this, for the top of funnel, you want your 60, 90, can be up to 2 minutes to be your long form, okay? Then for your mid funnel, you want to kind of follow that long form with that 30-second version. And that doesn't need to really articulate the problem, okay? In a mid funnel, the user has some understanding or some consideration, so they actually gauge the problem. It's actually more so about going into benefits there for a mid funnel asset. For bottom of funnel, you really want to be going no further than 6 to 9 seconds, so it's almost like a bumper, and you program that for a user that maybe has a double visit on your site, or maybe key landing pages. Like it could be your demo page, it could be a trial, it could be an offer, it could be specific campaign or sign up pages. You really want to have that level of programming if you're doing a customer acquisition campaign. That's really just got to be the basic that you do every single time. As a principle, you have to know as well that the first 5 seconds when it comes to paid spend for video is everything. You should always, and this is going to be the case 10 times out of 10, you need to have a brand mention. So you need to actually have your brand's logo in the first 1 to 2 seconds, even if that's its own frame and then the story begins afterwards. When you come to inventory like on YouTube, which is skippable, or you have inventory appearing in a feed, that 2 seconds is actually going to be really valuable, even if it is for an awareness goal. So just bear that in mind. You also want the specific product name that you're marketing. And believe me, a lot of companies we work with forget this, or they say within the storyboarding stage it wasn't something they considered. It is best practice to do that every single time. Second strategy there is engagement. So whereas customer acquisition is talking about obtaining new users, an engagement strategy is more so around how do we further engage existing users, and that could be measured in ARPU, for example. So distribution here, it's different to just going straight to social and doing a blast and making sure that the video is in every channel that you own. It's actually not so much about that focus. Instead, we found that clients actually have better results if they're creating a really solid kind of 3 to 5 step EDM cadence, and the target place for that cadence is going to be a video page. So that'll ideally be on your app or a website. I'm going to show you what that looks like. And secondary, you would then do the social and PR amplification. And that could be a product release that is, a real major one that deserves that type of attention. Other times the EDM cadence can suffice. And the style of this video tends to be more of that explainer or app video style, where you'd be showing some product context through UI or abstracted UI. Example here for DigitalOcean that we produced for the product app platform, was more of that kind of long form 2-minute video, but has product abstraction here written throughout. There's a really interesting kind of takeaway there that, even after 8 months, still proving out some really great ROI. Obviously a very kind of story-driven approach, but we also led with a plethora of cut downs that DigitalOcean used in more of a full funnel approach as well. And this was, again, distributed mainly through EDM. It has since lived on YouTube as well, so certainly got its fair share of play. Square's another example. You saw that logo in the beginning as soon as we started. And you see here, even with the UI itself, quite abstracted. Even this, it's for a snippet and a dev tool, but we really bring it down to its bare minimum. You find that the pace promotional video is actually moving at, it doesn't always serve the users best to use exact UI. You can see here, just because there's actually quite a lot to take in. When you've got the pace that a promotional video moves at, you do want to make it easy enough to understand. And obviously I've muted the voiceover in this instance. So some interesting kind of style there, and that was around 60 seconds if I'm not mistaken. You can see there in Square's case, they actually used a 3-step EDM, and this was the target page. So they take their dev audience, for example, which was segmented to this particular landing page, where you can see on the right, and this was a still taken, but this video would play onto the side, and then you could watch the full video here. So that's what I mean by a good video landing page or a video target page. Very simple. The main aim of the game is to watch the video for the users, to understand how they can actually extend their use of your product or platform. Learnings from engagement. Now this has been really interesting, especially in our work with Square. You really should be localizing if you've got a global presence. And obviously that's one of the real benefits of tech and SaaS, is that that can be done over time, and that movement into international markets. Now, whenever we do a project with Square, really, we're doing both translated voiceover and subtitles for, Japanese audiences, UK audiences, Irish accent, Spanish, Australian. So, relative to, or compared rather, with actually filming a whole new video for that product launch again in these different localized areas, it's far cheaper in today's world to actually very quickly localize across, just those voiceovers and subtitles, and actually have a very convincing asset that you can use for different international audiences. So, it can sometimes be, 0.1% of the budget. It can be in the low hundreds of dollars to actually get a very good localized result. So something to bear in mind if you do have international audiences. Video is a great way to speak to those differently and in a way which is very relatable. With engagement as well, really no need to talk about the problem too much here. If the user is already an existing user, they're really past that stage. So, and plus, if you think of your website, more of a mid-funnel zone in the funnel. So it is something where you should really be going to product benefits as quick as possible. Again, just make sure you name that product in the intro. If it needs to be explicitly said, is this a Square Online Checkout, so that the user knows they're in the right place. Do that. Don't assume that they'll actually have the right context or know as much as you do when it comes to this new product. In terms of the split overall for a video to do with engagement, we would typically make it 90% around the benefits and 10% around a call to action. So you kind of lead with those benefits, and then that's followed by really clear next CTA that always relates to somewhat of a deeper interactional step than just learning more. So it should be start for free, it should be book a demo, it should be, try pro for 14 days. It needs to be, you need to be thinking about it in a step kind of CTA, which goes beyond something generic. Third goal here is retention. So what about retaining users, and what type of content can be done from that perspective if, say, NRR is the goal? And the distribution here is really different to the first two. So you would typically see these videos appear in app, anecdotally. And before we go into the examples, Figma's really great at this, Pipedrive's really great at this. Obviously, Spotify, a client of ours, Spotify's subsidiary Anchor, really brilliant at this as well. And whether that, and Square also does a whole heap as well, and whether it is on mobile or on web apps, when you have those videos pop up in the corner, that's really the aim here. It's to take a beginner to an intermediate or an intermediate to expert, so the user actually can get more value out of the product and understand workflows that they didn't previously. So these scale really well by comparison, like very low barrier to entry, very low kind of budget or commitment from a marketing perspective here. Where you'd find them as well is in that help or FAQ section of the website. And you want a public record of this as well. So you want to see YouTube as a search engine, which it is. It's the second, largest visited site in the entire world by volume, by search volume. So actually having a long tail set of keywords relating to, that particular workflow of your product really should be in YouTube as well. Okay, so those three distribution channels are key. You'll often find these are called product how-tos or walkthrough videos when it comes to the style or understanding that glossary. This is an example from Spotify and Anchor, one of Spotify's subsidiaries. So starting with actually naming the product and then going into actually how it works. So again, there would be voiceover on these typically, but I've muted it for this presentation. And it's moving quickly. Like, remember that the user can pause this at any time. So I'll get to the learnings in a moment, but these shouldn't go on forever. These really shouldn't go on for 10 minutes. They should actually be scripted more often than not. It's not like a staff member should just sit down who's, the most knowledgeable staff member in the room, or someone from product, and just go for it for 10 minutes. That might be great if you're in a startup stage. If you've kind of, moved beyond that and, you are, getting some really serious user growth, investing in maybe a professional voiceover, for 20 of these videos, and then just booking that voiceover in a single session, is a really cost-effective way of doing it. And also just segmenting these chapters into 2 to 3 minute sound bites. They shouldn't be longer than that. Otherwise, the workflow, you're going to see serious drop-off. Better to actually make a concise topic for your workflow and move forward from there. So 2 to 3 minute chapters, got ahead there, but I want to reiterate that that's a super important part of whenever we engage in these projects. And you want to try and take these on as a kind of group thinking. It's not so much just doing, 1 or 2 of these and kind of dripping out, 2 per month. You really want to try and actually concentrate the effort and, commit to a certain amount, per quarter or per month to do in a way that actually just makes sure that the effort is really well leveraged. And you will get into the flow of that when you start to understand, what a concise, maybe, 1 minute 36 walkthrough actually feels like. So very momentum driven, and I think resources can be very shared if you actually do them all at once. Also, just creating a direct link for support. So if the user still has questions, or if it's complex or technical product, they still have questions, make sure you do actually include the link so that they actually can go to support, or they can, have some type of link to the product team. That's really important, and that actually gets forgotten about as well, quite a lot. And finally, certainly use a typographic thumbnail, whether it's on the website or in a public domain like YouTube. Here's a really good example from Anchor. Really easy to make. It's really an extra 20 to 30 minutes work, per video to get a really nice branded result. So just make sure you're actually doing that across all your videos so users can find it in the quickest way possible. In summary, it's really important that this structure of strategy is actually considered. There's a way of thinking about videos that it's certainly be getting a lot more accessible over time, and there's another side to it where it's like it is going to be expensive if you're going for that larger brand video campaign. So actually getting it right is super important, and it can be easy to get it wrong. There's a lot of stakeholders typically involved, process-wise it can be tough. So it really is about choosing that strategy first as a way to mitigate you choosing, say, the wrong style or the wrong distribution channels. Always choose the strategy first. And we've worked, as you saw, across a lot of these campaigns. You can pretty much boil every type of product marketing strategy down to those 3 strategies that I showed you before. So you can always use this as a reference for best practice. The distribution channels then, they do change depending on your product. So what might work for one product is YouTube and Twitter. Instagram and Facebook might be another go-to for a particular company depending on their audience. So our advice is if you do have a performance team in-house which has a good history with channels and paid spend, focus on 2 to 3 when it comes to video. You'd be surprised how differently it can behave to images, carousel, and standard text. Can be quite different just to get the hang of. Ultimately, it's going to be cheaper on ad spend kind of per play compared to a per view on an image or a still asset ad. We see like 2 to 3x cheaper actually per impression on a video compared to stills. So something to think about. Certainly good once you have the feel and once you have the data collected per campaign. And after that, really just ensuring that once you've chosen the distribution channels, the actual style of video suits that channel. So what I mean by that is not everything that's apt for a YouTube audience is going to fit Facebook. And not everything, say a nicely produced, Monday.com ad for YouTube, it's going to go well on TikTok. Chances are it's going to not go so well on TikTok at all. So and I will reiterate again, TikTok is not just a B2C channel, B2B, and watch that space. But something to think about as well, depending on where your distribution channels are, the type of content and the style that should be best engaged with it there. And the last thing, just making sure you get as many assets from each video effort as possible, whether those are cut downs, whether they're GIFs or stills, just making sure that that's certainly something that you're asking for, because there is really a wealth of assets that come out of each of these projects. So something to certainly bear in mind, but just making sure you're getting the most leverage possible. Some tips, and this is coming out of pain points that our clients report. If you need help in finding inspiration, there's a great website that actually collates a lot of the best tech examples and product videos in tech specifically. It's called www.spectacle.is. It's great. Really good and well categorized. You can also search via some of the audience attitudes we talked about before. So by mood or tone, as well as style or even strategy. So really great. I think you'll find some of this glossary that you've learned today will actually translate over well. And for any further reading on video marketing that you'd like to know and be assured is high quality, we really like Wistia's Learning Center. They have a phenomenal blog that's very active, some really great and well-researched long forms. So I'd certainly be reading there if you'd like to learn more about particular channels as well. They actually do some really great analysis on, solely YouTube styles or, best practices for Twitter or website video. So I would look at those 2 resources for further learning. Wanted to say a big thank you for watching. The videos that you would have seen play there, if you would actually like to watch them with sound and get the full experience and context, you can head to videco.com and search for our portfolio, and there'll be many other companies like Airtable, Vanguard, obviously Square. There's a lot of videos there that you can look through for inspiration in addition to spectacle. So that's certainly a resource that you can use. And any other questions around product marketing strategy and fitting video into that strategy, absolutely feel free to get in touch with our team. We'd be more than happy to have just an informal chat, lend any knowledge, or share any more metrics based on the companies we've worked with. I hope you all enjoy the summit and some of the other content that's going to be displayed. Thanks again for watching. Take care.
When someone mentions your competitors, does the conversation at your organization swing wildly between willful ignorance and reactive panic? Do people just drop links to competitor news posts in a Slack channel and start freaking out with no context? Or maybe your customer-facing teams are struggling to find clear, consistent, confident responses when they're asked about the competition? You are here because you are ready to become the go-to person at your organization for all things competition. I'm Alex Mcdonald, and I've led market and competitive intel functions at leading SaaS companies like Airtable and Envision. And I've done competitive intel and win-loss analysis as a consultant for SaaS leaders like Gainsight, Seismic, and Toast. And I also host a podcast on CI called Dance Battle, where I speak with fellow practitioners and we talk about all the lessons that we've learned the hard way so that you don't have to. I have taken everything that I wish I knew when I started in competitive intel and curated it into this course. It includes over 2 hours of content and over 10 practical templates that you can start using immediately. In this course, we'll cover first building up your CI function, starting with your listening stack, doing web research, win-loss research, how to create a market map, how to develop your competitive position, and how to write a clear competitive news briefing. Then we'll go deep on how CI serves different stakeholder groups around the organization, with a focus on sales and customer success first, then marketing, product, and finally executives. I hope you'll join me for Competitive Intelligence Certified by the Product Marketing Alliance and me, Alex Mcdonald.
Vidico, how does it work?
You tell Vidico, hey, I need a video. Let's say for a product launch. We say great. We can produce a brand video, case study, software walkthrough, even animation.
That was cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Vidico is like going on a road trip with the fam. Whether you're in tech or e-commerce, we guide you through the whole process and make you a video you'll be dying to share.
Hi everyone, we hope you're enjoying the Masters of Product Marketing Summit so far. Just before we jump into the next session, I want to share some info on some very exciting projects we have been working on here at PMA. As you know, here at PMA, we are dedicated to elevating the role of product marketing. But as the function grows, we have been focusing on how to develop the best product marketing leaders for now and the near future. 2 exciting ways we have been doing this is through our Product Marketing Certified Leadership course and the introduction of our exec membership plan. Product Marketing Certified Leadership will equip you with the insider knowledge you need to create a lasting, successful career as a product marketing leader. In it, we'll equip you with the fundamental skills required to guide your team with authority, confidence, influence, and innovation. Our exec membership plan gives you all the benefits of our awesome Pro plan, in addition to our exclusive leadership community, strategic templates and frameworks, leadership peer councils, monthly masterminds, a recruitment hub, and a whole lot more. We will be sharing more details on both of these throughout the week, but if you want to chat in more depth, why not reach out to me through the PMA Slack community. But for now, on to the next talk. everybody, and welcome back to the Masters of Product Marketing event today. Next up, we have an awesome session for you. I am joined by Mari Lee, who is currently the VP of Marketing at MoneyLion, which has just gone public. Congrats to the MoneyLion team.
Thank you.
And I have spoken to Mari on a number of occasions, and she has some awesome experience to share from her time, largely in the B2C world of product marketing, but yes, some very interesting experience to share across the board. And today she is going to be really deep diving into what it takes to be a product marketer, what that kind of DNA of a superhero product marketer is, and as that superhero product marketer, what are your key superpowers? So welcome, Mari. Thanks for joining us. And I'd love to start off today's discussion by finding out a little bit more about yourself and your experience.
Yeah. Thank you, Rose, for having me again. I always love being part of the Product Marketing Alliance and sharing my experiences, my knowledge with the product marketing sort of community. You're absolutely right. We just went public, so it's been an absolutely hectic last couple of weeks, but really excited to find time and connect on this really important topic of, what is this superhero product marketer, and what are your superpowers, and even what is your kryptonite and how we can overcome those. So a little bit about me. I'm the VP of Marketing at MoneyLion. So for many of you who may not be familiar with MoneyLion already, MoneyLion is an app that allows you to manage your finances, right? You just need to go to Google Play or Apple Store, download the app, and you can bank, borrow, invest, and grow. Before MoneyLion, I worked at some of the top tech companies in the world, such as Twitter, N26 US, OpenTable, and Brother, where I led large product marketing teams, really launching multiple products. And I've been doing product marketing for 20 years. Interestingly, I was a product marketer before they even called the function product marketing. So I've got years of experience, and I've seen the evolution of product marketing throughout the years. But I think most importantly for people who are on this call, what really stands out is I've been in your shoes, right? So I've been that product marketer. I felt the pain points of a product marketer in terms of not having enough resources, or being stretched thin, or trying to show impact, or trying to get influence and getting a seat at the table. What that also means is, I've been in the shoes of a product marketer where I know the value that everyone brings to the table, to the organization. And I think that gives me a unique perspective on why I think product marketers are the superheroes, and what are some of the insights that I can bring to our conversations and the talk today.
Absolutely. Like you said, a huge amount of kind of important topics to dive right into. And yeah, I for one am really looking forward to it. So yeah, feel free to dive right into your session.
All right. Well, thank you, Rose. So this leads me into why I think product marketers are superheroes, right? So my superhero friends, welcome to my talk, and come with me on this journey as I explain to you why I think we are the superheroes of our company. So I think one of the first questions that we should ask ourselves is, if we're talking about product marketers being superheroes, is what is in the DNA of a superhero product marketer? And very secretly, do you have that secret sauce that really makes you that special superhero product marketer? So the Product and Marketing Alliance did a survey most recently as part of their 2021 survey. And they asked you, what is the most important skill for you to succeed in your role? And many of you responded by saying it's collaboration, strong communication, creativity, and so forth, right? But if I take a step back and I think about what you've just shared with us, what it basically says is the most important skill that a product marketer has is to bring teams together to deliver a cohesive experience across the customer journey between product and marketing together. And so when I think about what is a successful product marketer, there are all the skills that you listed, but I also think that there's a number of other skills that are also important. I think that a product marketer needs to be a fabulous facilitator. So you're trying to get everyone working together cohesively. a notorious negotiator. Why? Because ultimately, you're, in my mind, a data-driven diplomat. What does that mean, right? I've seen the most successful product marketers being like a data-driven diplomat, because as a product marketer, what you're doing is you're using data to really understand the customer's needs, right? Understand how best to fulfill those needs with the features and the development that you're building. Well, that's the first thing. Then what you do is you're the person who represents the customer voice, the marketing point of view, and you're often in what I would call, quote unquote, foreign territory, negotiating with your marketing stakeholder partners, with, you know, like your product counterparts and other stakeholders on how best to solve for these customer problems in a way that's cohesive and it meets business goals. So it takes a skilled negotiator, you know, trying to, you know, define how you do that together to deliver on business KPIs and product KPIs. So the next question is, okay, now we know what's in the DNA of the most successful product marketers. The next question is, you know, why are product marketers superheroes? Why, in my opinion, do I think that we're superheroes, right? And I think, you know, for me, we asked you, how many products do you typically support? And the majority of you, over 50%, said, you know, you support 3 or more products. So to me, when I sort of look at the data, it basically says, you know, it takes a special type of marketer to be a product marketer. And I'm sure, you know, I'll take a minute for you to reflect, and I'm sure you would feel the same way, right? And then when I think about like my own organization within the teams I've worked with, within my current company, product marketers own entire business lines. What does that mean? That means, you know, they own every single product that goes out of that business line, whether or not it's like a banking business line, crypto, and so forth. And what that equates to is that it's a lot of products, right? I also take a step back and I reflect back and go, okay, what's been my experience? Throughout my career, I've supported anywhere from 2 all the way through to 18 products at any given time. So given, you know, like many of you have already told us that, you know, resourcing is also something that is a consideration for you. Now, the question is, how do you leverage, what tools can you use to be able to, you know, get the most out of your superpower and make the most impact for the company, right? So what I want to share with you is a tool that I use. It's my mental model and that we use in our organization to be able to evaluate the level of support and where to put our efforts. So I would start off by saying not all products are made equal, right? You know that. And I think that, you know, really key is using this mental model or this matrix of prioritization and tiering to ruthlessly prioritize and also get alignment with your stakeholders on the level of support any given product or launch gets. And the way we sort of think about it is on the vertical axis here, you've got in your features, whether or not they're differentiators or table stake features, right? And then on the horizontal axis here, you've got, you know, whether or not this feature is going to provide low business or customer impact, or more higher business or, you know, higher customer impact. And so we start mapping out where certain features sort of will fit on this continuum, right? So if a product is a differentiator and it's going to have massive impact, we call it a P1 launch. What that means is you get full 360, you know, launch, activating every single marketing channel there is. You get a lot of spend and a range of assets, right? You know, if a feature is, you know, a differentiator, but low business impact, or has high business impact, but a table stakes feature, we classify that as P2, where it gets some marketing love, not all the marketing love that's possible, but some marketing love and some limited assets and spend to support the launch. And then the third one is if it's a table stakes features, but has low business or customer impact, we will call that a P3, where you get limited channels and mainly owned and operated channels and product education. I share this by saying, you know, this is our mental model at Moneyline and how I've approached it throughout my career. I think it's important for you within your own organization to develop your own sort of prioritization and tiering to be able to ensure that, you know, with the resources you have, you can make the most impact. So the next question is, okay, so we know, why I think that product marketers are superheroes. The next question is, what's your product marketing superpower, right? And so in the survey from Product Marketing Alliance, we asked you what it is that you do and the responsibilities of a product marketer, right? So you listed out a number of different things that you do, whether or not it's messaging, managing launches, creating collateral, doing research. It's a pretty long list. But when I sort of look at the list and then I put on the hat of the stakeholder partners that you work with, or people not necessarily within the marketing team, it's a pretty extensive list, but it's hard. Number one, hard to remember all the possible things that you could do for them. But then number two, the next question is, how is that different to the other marketers that are in the organization? So for example, with website management, how are you different from when it comes to product marketing and what you do with website management versus someone who actually manages the website? And so those are the questions that you probably get. And it's really important that you be able to distill it down for your stakeholders so they really understand what it is that you do. So what I would say is, you have 5 superpowers. And these 5 superpowers is what makes you unique from anyone else that's in the marketing organization or in the company, right? So number one, right, what you do is you bring the voice of the market, not just the consumer, not just the customers. It's the voice of the market. So you understand customer needs, you understand the trends, and you're able to bring this information back to the teams and provide a unique point of view. Number two, what you do is you're able to take the product and distill it down, right, into the very essence of what needs to be communicated. So think about it. You take the product briefs, the functional briefs, the technical, knowledge and all the information there, and the customer experience and the UX designs and the product research, and you distill it down into this very gem of what needs to be communicated out into the marketplace. Number 3 superpower is competitive. You bring this knowledge of what's out there and what the competitors are doing from a feature perspective and a messaging perspective. And you can sort of bring that perspective of how can we be different in the marketplace when we launch? And that's an important superpower to have. The 4th superpower is that you work full funnel. You're able to build full funnel stories from awareness, consideration, conversion, onto onboarding, to activation, retention. You can build the stories in a way so that you can deliver the right message at the right time, at the right place about your products by working with your marketing stakeholder partners. And the 5th superpower you have is you're the glue. Right? You bring teams together so that teams can work together cohesively to bring a really unified and cohesive customer experience between product and marketing. And those are your 5 superpowers. So given that you have these superpowers and here are all the different things that you can do, right? We know you do you support a lot of products, you bring a lot to the table. Why is it that you're still misunderstood, right? So in the survey, we asked you, do people fully understand what product marketing does? And 4% of you said 100%. They understand everything I do, right? And in essence, actually, this 4% has decreased slightly from last year. Then there's 27% of you who said, yeah, they have a pretty decent understanding, which is great, right? However, I'm going to pause for a minute here and just let you reflect. Only 31% of you have people who truly understand what it is that you do. It's only 31%. I'll pause there. Now, let me paint a picture. Imagine working in a world where most of you are working in an environment where people don't really understand what you do, right? They don't know, like the value they bring. Like I can imagine the frustration, the challenges that this brings, right? And so the question is for you is like, first of all, like, why do they still understand after, all this time of me supporting them? But the most important question is, how do I make them understand? So what I want to do is actually share with you a little bit of a story that I use and that has been very successful for me in terms of defining what product marketing does at the highest level before I distill it down into all the different things that I do. And it's worked each and every time in every single organization I've worked with. And I want to share this secret with you. So what's the best way to explain product marketing in a way that sticks? So the best way I do is I use an analogy of a bike, right? Where a bike has two wheels. And, the product manager or the product management team is the, one cog in the wheel. And he's like the mini CPO of, like this product launch. On the other cog of the wheel is the product marketer, who represents the mini CMO of a product line. And together they're the central cogs in a wheel of a bike that has to keep the bike moving the wheels moving in the same pace, in the same direction, to ensure that the bike and the product launch, in this case, is going to keep moving forward and launch at the right time, at the right pace, right? And so on the product management cog, he's bringing together teams around engineering, product design, your user research, so that everyone's working cohesively within his hub. For the product marketer, the mini CMO, he or she's bringing together like the marketing, the creatives, the legal and compliance, the operations, the customer service, the partnerships team, anyone that's sort of like external facing, not part of EPD, ensuring that they're all working cohesively together and everything's, working as it should. And together, they're turning the wheels at the same pace and partnering together between product management and product marketing. And I guarantee you, if you use this story, this analogy on like what it is, the purpose of product marketers and how we work with product management, I promise you, it will resonate with your stakeholder partners. And what I do is when I tell the story, I tell it top down, bottoms up, often, and I even tell my teams to tell this story, because what it does is it sort of really resonates and it reinforces the value and what it is that we do. All right, so I've just taken you through, like how to tell your story and what we do. The next question is, through some of the research, there was a question around how to use your superpowers to influence the roadmap, right? So, we asked you on a scale of 1 to 10, how much influence do you feel as product marketers that you have on the products that you market? And, as an aggregate score, on average, the product marketers at this conference said, you know what? I only score myself, or like as an average, as a group, 5.8, which is a decrease from 2020. And so when you think about a score of 5.8, that's pretty mediocre, right? And so it makes you sort of think, okay, given all that you do, given the value that you bring, given the insights that you bring, why is the score only 5.8? And then more importantly, the question is, how can you have more influence on the product roadmap? And so I think the answer is that, I think you use your 5 superpowers, like I've mentioned, to really influence the roadmap, right? And really sort of turn it around in a way that is meaningful for discussions around the roadmap. So we talked about your 5 superpowers, voice of the market, right? Remember, we talked about that. What does that mean? Is that you're able to bring to your teams this market insight around what's trending and important in the marketplace, and also like how you're fulfilling customer needs. And you can bring that back to the conversations and say, okay, within this product roadmap or this development, how are we delivering on the customer need? Which of these feature sets, or how is this feature set delivering and capitalizing on market trends? And really sort of push the conversation using that information. The second thing is, we said that part of your superpowers, you can take the product and distill it down to the very essence of what needs to be communicated, right? But then what I think you could turn around when it comes to product roadmap discussions is, what is this product vision that we're trying to sort of drive towards? And where is that value? And what's going to have the most impact? And don't be afraid to go to your product counterparts and ask them those very questions. We're developing all these features, right? Or in this particular feature set, here's kind of like what we scoped out. How is it delivering on the product vision? How impactful is it going to be? And is this the right order or sequencing of the features to be able to deliver maximum impact? The third superpower you should leverage is competitive, because what that really does is if you break it down, and as I mentioned earlier, anytime you go to market, you need to have somewhat of a differentiation, right? Whether or not it's in the way that the product's being developed, or the way you message it, right? And why is that important? So that you can get cut through. So not only do you tell people what it is that you do, and what this product does, but also how is it different, right? Versus everything. And so that people can really remember your message. So I think it's important to have that conversation where you look at the competitive landscape and say, how are we going to be different? Is it through feature development, or is it going to be marketing, or both? And how do we partner to be able to do that? The fourth superpower you should leverage is, what we call like that full funnel story. Essentially what that basically means is, hey, if you give me something wonderful, I can bring to you the table the marketing resources needed to really amplify the story, and also elevate and celebrate all this work. And going back to that matrix that we talked about at the very beginning, if you're building me a product that has differentiation, this allows me to provide more impact, more resources to tell the story, because it's going to be a higher prioritization, because it's going to differentiate us. And remember, on that matrix, differentiation was a key variable in terms of like the amount of resources that you sort of deliver. And then finally, the glue, right? Glue represents bringing teams together in a cohesive fashion to be able to tell the story through the customer journey, from all the marketing channels all the way through to the product experience. So it's unified, it's cohesive, and you have product and marketing working together. And I tell you that, during those product roadmap discussions, use your 5 superpowers to be able to influence the roadmap. So we talked about you being a superhero, and we talked about your superpower, but another key question is, what's your kryptonite, right? What takes away your influence and your power, and how do we neutralize that? All right. So when we asked you, from a success perspective, how do you measure your success? Interestingly, 15% of you said, we don't have OKRs. And I can tell you right now, that's your kryptonite. If you are not able to tell your story around the impact that you can make through data and quantify it, you're always going to be seen as a service agency and never as a thought partner that can help your stakeholder partners move business metrics. So it's really absolutely important for you to be able to quantify your business impact. Then, of the PMMs or product marketers who actually answered, many of you said, look, you know what, I'm sort of anchored to revenue, driving leads, any number of these sort of OKRs here. And what I'm telling you here is, it's really important that you show your impact through metrics that align to your product counterparts' North Star metric around, and driving product adoption of that North Star metric, because measurement matters. So when I think about the PMM and what it is that a PMM or product marketer does to ensure that they can show impact, I think about the entire life cycle, right? So there's 2 parts. When you're at the early stages and you're still sort of defining the product, you're probably thinking, Mari, how do I measure my impact, right? Because we haven't launched yet. And my answer to you is this: at the early stages, you have the opportunity to continuously iterate on your message before launch, right? So you can do a number of A/B tests at this time, where you can sort of see the results of what resonates most with your customers. Use those as KPIs around how you measure your impact at the early stages of development. Now, for those of you who are at launch, think about what a GTM is. A GTM is basically a 360 campaign, bringing multiple marketing channels together to drive towards common goal, which is to move key KPIs that is aligned to the product adoption of product North Star metric. So it's important for you to be able to understand how each of your marketing channels that you use for your launch is helping to drive the North Star metric, but then take the aggregate view. So all the channels combined to really summarize up the aggregate perspective on how this 360 product marketing launch has been able to move the metrics and drive product adoption. And how you do that is really key, right? So I think it's important for you to ensure that all your marketing channels have attribution in place. So you can then attribute the impact of specific activities to specific marketing channels. Then that can be rolled up into an aggregate view of how this GTM moved key marketing metrics. So absolutely, make sure you measure, otherwise it will be your kryptonite. And then finally, there are two final questions that came up from the survey, which is that really stood out to me is like, number one, how is a product marketer different from other marketers? And number two, when should a company add their own superhero product marketer, right? And these are two really important questions, because when we did the survey, what came out is that it seems that product marketers are found in more established companies, right? Only 21% of product marketers are found in either early pre-product market fit organizations or early post-product market fit organizations. But I would argue that product marketing is even more important at the early stages, because when you think about, like, going back to the roadmap discussions, when you're at the early stages, you're trying to define what it is that you want to build, right? And so this is where the product marketer really can provide some value in terms of the market, what it needs, what are the trends, what customer needs, to bring that back to define and help inform the roadmap. Also, it's important for product marketers at the early stages to do the messaging, the positioning, and tell the stories in a way so that as this product gets opened up into the marketplace and introduced into the marketplace, people understand what it does and how it does it. And that's really important to really, for customer comprehension. The other question that gets asked is, well, how is product marketing different from other product marketing other marketing functions? In my mind, the product marketers and other marketing functions have to form this superhero dynamic duo sort of partnership, right? But how they're different is this: is product marketing is responsible for marketing specific products, and they work with multiple marketing channel partners, right, to be able to tell the end-to-end story from awareness all the way to retention for their given product line or product lines. And so it's a cohesive story throughout the customer journey. For other other marketing functions such as content, social, performance marketing, lifecycle marketing, their job is to message for all products, right? So not just your product line, they work across all products, and they work with multiple product marketers. So they're more horizontal. So that's how I would sort of differentiate for you and your stakeholder partners, that product marketing is more vertical and very focused and goes deep from end to end through the entire funnel. And the other marketing functions are typically more horizontal, and they work across multiple products. So with this, I'm at the end of my talk, and I want to give you 3 key takeaways on why I think product marketers are superheroes, and how you can take these 3 key takeaways to tell your story and make impact and help people in your organization understand why you are their superhero within the organization. So point number 1 is you're a data-driven diplomat, right? Because you're the mini CMO who partners with a mini CPO, which is like the chief product officer, mini chief product officer, for any given product line or business line or feature line. And you work with your stakeholder partners to achieve these common goals. 2, I think it's important that you use your superpowers. Think about those 5 superpowers I talked about earlier to bring insights and teams together to ensure a cohesive and differentiated customer experience across product and marketing. And 3, measurement is absolutely key. I cannot tell you how important this is. And so think about like your A/B test, so you could do it early on in the product lifecycle, how you think about the aggregate view of all marketing channels when you go to GTM, and how that aligns with the North Star product adoption metric that you and your product counterparts are trying to move. And then finally, I hope that through this talk, that I've given you the tools to tell your own story around why product marketers are the superheroes, and how product marketing always is there to help save the day. Finally, I want to say thank you to the Product Marketing Alliance for allowing me to join again. I really enjoyed the opportunity to share my knowledge, my experience, and some of the tools to help you become the superhero product marketer that I know that you are. So if you have any questions or need any help, please email me at marilee@datadrivendiplomat.com. All right. Thank you everyone for your time.